The wonderful adventures of the Warhammer elf. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1, The Witch King's Chief Guard. Broken limbs, organs, and blood covered the ground. Countless elves were beheaded in the square. The remaining fear in their eyes was their last gift to the world. The survivors with healthy bodies were whipped by their slave owners with long whips. They were stripped naked and wailed for mercy, which made the elves who were watching sneer. Rohan rode a dark horse, followed by 60 black guards of Nagarin holding halberds and wearing heavy black armor, marching in step, making the elves who were busy looting avoid them. Looking at the tragic scene on the street, Rohan's eyes flashed a trace of pity, but it was instantly replaced by a cold look. This is the 4th village destroyed. If nothing unexpected happens, this hunting trip to the south should be over. That's right. Such a cruel village massacre is just an ordinary hunting trip in Taruka's eyes. Just like going out hunting. Rohan, come here. Not far away, a cold and piercing voice woke Rohan from the tragedy in front of him, and then he noticed that in front of a fire not far away, a black figure was looking at him. Rohan hurriedly jumped off the saddle, walked quickly to the figure and bowed. Lord Witch King, what instructions do you have? 100 years. Huh. Rohan looked at the Witch King, Malekith, with some doubts, not understanding what he meant by 100 years. Malekith's green eyes stared at Rohan, and Rohan was so scared that he lowered his head in a hurry. He felt cold sweat on his back, fearing that the other party would chop off his head in the next second. Have you forgotten? You have served me for 100 years. Hearing Malekith's emotionless words, Rohan realized that this was the 100th year since he traveled to the Warhammer world. I didn't expect spicy chicken shreds to remember it. Did I do something wrong? Rohan racked his brains, trying to recall whether he had ever offended the Witch King, but found that he had been loyal for 100 years and had never done anything wrong. The Witch King is right. After today, it will be the 100th year since I met the Witch King. Looking at Rohan, who was still shivering in the cold wind, Malekith narrowed his eyes with satisfaction. He was quite satisfied with this Tarachi who claimed to be a time traveler. It was a dark and windy night. Because he hated snowy days, Malekith was riding his dragon Seraphim and flying over the clouds. The soft moonlight shone on the Witch King's midnight armor. Far away from the court, he no longer heard the flattering words of the servants, which made the Witch King fall into a rare relaxation. Help! RRRR. Suddenly, a scream came from far away, and Malekith opened his eyes dissatisfied, and then saw something coming from the sky. What is that? Seraphim also looked up in confusion, and then the man in the dragon saw a naked dark elf falling beside them. Malekith stared blankly at the naked dark elf disappearing into the clouds. After coming to his senses, he patted Seraphim on the back and said, "Go and see what's going on." Seraphim did somersaults obediently, and soon found the naked dark elf screaming in the clouds. Looking at the flawless naked dark elf in front of him, Seraphim couldn't help licking his lips. Was this a gift from God? The Witch King looked at the dark elf who fell from nowhere, grabbed the back of his neck, and pulled his hand armor to pull the flesh of his opponent, making the naked dark elf beg for mercy. Recalling the scene when the two met for the first time, Malekith's mouth corners slightly raised, and then whispered, "I said at the beginning that as long as you serve me for 100 years, I will set you free." Great Witch King, did I do anything wrong? Rohan was frightened and sweated coldly. He has been Malekith's attendant for the past 100 years, so he knows a lot of little secrets about the Witch King. For example, the Witch King often invites some sorceresses to the castle of Nagarin to appreciate art, or some new maids sent by the Lord of Fear are all received and sent to the Witch King's room by Rohan. Although Rohan would leave the castle to sweep the snow outside every time, who can guarantee that the Witch King, who is in a weird mood, will not chop him to death? After all, although he had trained with the Black Guards of Nagarin for decades, his strength was still a little behind that of the Witch King. Rohan glanced at the light screen in front of him quietly. This was a secret that even Malekith did not know. Rohan, chief of the Witch King's guards, armor strength 60, silver shield, leadership 65, movement speed 35/90, dark steed, melee attack 40 melee defense. 70 because he is too timid, he is good at defense, weapon power. 300 charge bonus. 20, 40 items, features, lucky guy chosen by the system, post-war looting plus 15%, probability of looting magic items plus 25%, killing attainment, try to please the god of killing. You go first, I'll cover you. Charge bonus minus 20, whole team melee defense plus 10. Looking at his rookie-like data, Rohan decisively gave up the idea of resistance and stood aside obediently with his head down. He knew that it was best not to speak at this time and just wait for the arrangement of spicy chicken shreds. Malekith was obviously very satisfied with Rohan's attitude, so he said in a relatively soothing tone, I know you are not satisfied with just being a guard beside me. After all, you once said that you have the ability to travel through the world. Lucky. Rohan rubbed his hands awkwardly. This was a dark history when he just came to Nagaland. At that time, he was young and joked with Malekith in private, asking Malekith if he wanted to go to another world, which frightened the black guards who were on duty at the time. They thought that Rohan meant to send Malekith's soul to another world, which meant to kill Malekith. So in an instant, more than a dozen halberds were against Rohan's neck. If Malekith hadn't cared about Rohan's jokes, I'm afraid Rohan would have been dragged by the witch spirits to see Cain at that time. Since then, Rohan never talked about traveling in front of Malekith again, and he only dared to make jokes in private. P.S. I'm not a professional Warhammer fan, and some of the settings may be original, so don't worry if you don't like it. Chapter 2 Grand Town. Whether it was a fluke or not, I need your ability now. The Witch King obviously didn't intend to talk nonsense, but said to Rohan, according to the news, the dirty ratmen attacked Grand Town and killed the local nobles. I want you to get rid of those ratmen for me. All the troops brought out for this hunting trip are under your command. If you perform well, you will be the new Lord of Terror in Grand Town. Rohan was stunned for a moment, and then he couldn't suppress his ecstasy. Grand Town, that was the blessed land he had dreamed of for 100 years. But Rohan still suppressed the joy in his heart and asked carefully, then I will leave. Get out. Okay, sir. After Rohan took the military card thrown by the Witch King, he immediately left the fire and rode his horse to the square of the village ruins. In the square, the Dark Elf troops had already finished looting and lined up in neat squares, waiting for Rohan's inspection. Since Nagaroth is rich in steel, the soldiers of Druki are all wearing full body armor, like a great wall of black iron. Outside the square, a team of dark riders are ready, and the sharp barbs on the lances in their hands are chilling. Rohan looked at these soldiers with satisfaction. Although these soldiers were just ordinary cannon fodder in the game of the previous life, Rohan did not doubt the combat effectiveness of these warriors. My lord, there are a total of 480 excellent Druki Dread Spearmen and 60 Dark Riders willing to join your team. A quartermaster came to Rohan and reported the situation of the troops to him. His eyes were full of jealousy. He was obviously dissatisfied with Rohan for not making any contribution, but becoming the leader of the army. Why? Could it be that this little white face who looks like the eldest son of Slaanesh is the illegitimate son of the Witch King? Rohan didn't know what the quartermaster was saying, but even if he knew, he probably wouldn't care. After all, when he was airdropped by Nicki Minaj to serve as a squad leader in the Black Guard of Nagaland, there were already many rumors. Even Morathi, who was far away in Hagrid's Hall, wrote back to ask what was going on. Back to the point, among these troops, Rohan saw many familiar faces, most of whom were conscripted citizens of Nagaland, homeless but obedient good men. Drachi. I think most of you know me. After all, we often meet in taverns or casinos. Hehe. The soldiers couldn't help laughing, because they did know Rohan, but not because of his drinking and gambling skills, but because Rohan was always generous. As the chief attendant of the Witch King, some small nobles wanted to please the Witch King through Rohan, so they had to give gifts to Rohan. And Rohan naturally accepted everyone who came. With the tacit consent of the Witch King, he would hand over 70% of the treasure every time, and then take the rest of the money to build a good relationship with the young people in the slums. These young people who had received Rohan's favor spontaneously joined Rohan's army. After all, who could refuse a boss who was easy to talk to and rich? There is good news. Do you all know about Grand Town? The local FW lord couldn't beat the Ratman and was defeated by a group of rats. Lord Witch King gave me a chance. As long as we perform well, I can become the new Lord of Grand Town. I promise you that I will arrange your own residence in Grand Town. Great. The soldiers waved their weapons excitedly. Although the Dark Elves are a slave society and they don't have to worry about food and clothing, most of them can only live in collective apartments in slums. Being able to own a house of their own is their greatest hope. Seeing the soldiers' emotions being mobilized, Rohan nodded comfortably. 100 years of getting along made Rohan understand that for Dorichi, what he needed most was not a passionate speech before the war, but what benefits he could get after the victory. Let's go, for glory, blood, victory. Drachi. The shouts of hundreds of Dark Elf warriors resounded across the plains, causing the Witch King in the distance to nod secretly. Since you are so motivated, go and build the grand town you have been dreaming of. A few days later, Grand Town, a town located between the Claw Coast and the Broken Land, has been targeted by Rohan decades ago due to its proximity to the desolate coast and its remote location. It's a pity that the local Lord of Dread is a white-haired beauty with a bad temper. She wears a mask all day and scolds everyone she sees. She doesn't obey anyone except spicy chicken shreds. Now Rohan finally finds the opportunity to occupy the magpie's nest. Riding on the dark horse, Rohan was very happy and even began to think about the plan to expand the town. The Witch King has rewarded me with 1,000 gold coins, which is enough to pay the wages of the troops for the next 2 months. Grand Town is a city close to the mountains, so there should be mineral deposits, right? Just as Rohan was full of fantasies about what he thought was a bright future, a dark rider who was exploring the way came back with a worried look on his face. Sir, we are about to arrive at Grand Town. We have not found any traces of the dirty rats, but Grand Town does not look good. You'd better take a look for yourself. Oh, let's go and take a look. Rohan had already prepared for the rider's report. After all, the situation of a town looted by ratmen must not be optimistic. But when Rohan arrived near Grand Town, he found that the situation was much worse than what the Witch King said. The stone wall that was originally several meters high was completely pushed down, revealing a large number of burned townhouses and various corpses that no one had cleaned up. Hundreds of refugees who lost their homes were forced to squeeze into the remaining houses. Dorichi was already in such a difficult situation, not to mention the naked slaves. The few hundred remaining slaves, driven by their temporary slave masters, were repairing the burned buildings, and the circle of holes outside the town was obviously for the slaves to live in. Looking at the dilapidated scene of Grand Town, Rohan's facial muscles twitched slightly in anger. Now he finally understood why the Witch King was so kind to give him this Feng Shui treasure land. It seems that no lord is willing to accept it. Question mark? PS. The backward slave system refers to the income of more than 10,000 per round. Chapter 3 Reconstruction. The residents of Grand soon noticed the approach of Rohan's troops, so they came out of their houses one by one and gathered in the relatively intact town center square. When Rohan led his team into the town, they found that the situation was not particularly bad. A simple wall had been built on the road in the center of the town, and a dozen injured black crossbowmen were patrolling on the wall. Under the wall, some new recruits were stripping the armor and weapons of the dead soldiers, looking for things to arm themselves. Seeing Rohan's troops arrive, a captain with a bandage on his head came to Rohan's horse, saluted and asked, "My lord, I'm Dario, the acting commander here. What do you need? Where is Anati? Did she die in the battle?" Anati is the Lord of Gran, or the previous Lord of Fear, a white-haired and blue-eyed girl, but unfortunately she is too foul-mouthed and does not listen to anyone except the Witch King. Dario hesitated for a moment and replied, "My lord, Lady Anati is missing, and we only found the weapons she left behind." TSK. Rohan frowned. Although he didn't have a good relationship with Anati, he was still an old acquaintance. He didn't expect that he would end up like this. Rohan waved his hand behind him, and Dario noticed that there were several carriages full of supplies behind Rohan's team. Rohan took out the soldier card given by the Witch King and gestured to Dario. "Thank you, Lord Witch King. According to the order of the Witch King, you are now under my command. After the Ratmen are eliminated, I will be your new lord." Then he led his soldiers into the town of Gran, announced the news in the square, and ordered the soldiers to distribute the supplies they brought to the people. Rohan stood on a temporary platform, looking at the civilians of Durachi who were receiving supplies, and said to Dario behind him, "I have a task for you. Go recruit 2 teams of black crossbowmen from the locals. Your armory should not be destroyed yet, right, sir? Do we need to slow down the formation of the troops? After all, Grand Town cannot provide you with taxes now." Dario hesitated. The civilians of Durachi are natural warriors. As long as they get weapons, they can become qualified town guards, and they do not need to be paid. But if they want to recruit additional troops, Rohan will have to pay for it himself, and according to his speculation, Rohan should not have brought much money. Indeed, Rohan only has more than 800 gold coins on him now. If he recruits 2 more teams of black crossbowmen, he will have no money to pay the military salary next month. However, Rohan didn't seem to be worried at all. Instead he replied nonchalantly, "Don't worry, you will have money naturally after you complete the recruitment mission." After Dario left with full of questions, Rohan entered the Lord's Hall that originally belonged to Anati and sat down on the chair that represented the Lord's status. The chair still had a faint scent of Anati's perfume, which made Rohan couldn't help but sigh. How could such a beautiful white-haired queen be gone just like that? Then he opened the system and silently checked the first message the system had sent in 100 years. Artifact mission. The glory of Durachi is a Durachi who is determined to plunder the world. He was robbed by dirty rats. It's a shame. If you want to be an excellent dreadlord, you must make the enemies who dare to provoke you pay the price. What better sacrifice is there than endless rats? Go and kill all the rats hiding in the mines. Recruit 8 troops progress. 6 ace defeat a rat army progress. 0/1 reward. 2000 gold plus 4000 gold hiding in the mines. No wonder Anati failed. I guess he was confused by the sudden attack. Looking at the only 6 soldier cards in his hand, Rohan decisively gave up his plan to launch a reckless attack and let the newly recruited troops train for a month. After all, as an outsider, Rohan didn't know what was going on in the mines, so he needed local recruits to help lead the way. But 6000 gold is really good. Through the window, Rohan could see several slave owners whipping slaves with whips, asking them to speed up the repair of damaged buildings. These newly appointed slave owners obviously didn't know how to increase the efficiency of slaves, and just waved whips to drive slaves away. What nonsense! How can such a management method be efficient? Seeing slaves being whipped to the ground by slave owners from time to time, Rohan was a little angry. After all, these slaves would be his assets in the future. How could they be abused like this? 98 years ago, Rohan once followed Malekith to Hargansi, where he witnessed what it meant to be a real river of blood. Rohan, who grew up under the red flag, was so scared at the time that he watched the witch spirits drag the crying slaves to the altar, and then there was a scratch card. In the end, Rohan vomited all over the floor amid the laughter of the black guards. Just as he was about to turn around and flee, Malekith grabbed his hair and twisted his chin and witnessed a slave screaming and being sacrificed by a witch spirit. Rohan still remembers that it was the first and only time that Malekith said to him in an angry tone, "What's wrong with your expression? What's wrong with your tears? A real Durachi doesn't need useless sympathy. If you want to stick to your stupid kindness, you might as well get out and become stronger. So strong that one day you will be qualified to decide the life and death of slaves, and make those witch spirits dare not lay hands on your things." For the next 50 years, Rohan has been learning from the black guards of Nagarand and reading books on management in his free time. Faced with problems he didn't understand, the Witch King even allowed Rohan to go to the slave owner's work site to learn how to manage slaves. After completing his studies, the Witch King made Rohan his chief attendant, responsible for managing the servants and black guards in the palace of Nagarand. Obviously, 100 years of learning experience has given Rohan a new understanding of maximizing the efficiency of slaves, so Rohan stood up and prepared to teach those young slave owners a lesson. Chapter 4, on slavery. Hurry up, hurry up. On the streets, slaves were everywhere, cleaning up the burned houses with carts under the command of architects, picking up the construction waste that could still be used in the ruins. The new slave owners who had just taken over were waving whips, urging the slaves to cut down trees, and then carrying them to the open space to build new wooden houses. Rohan came to the construction site and saw these ignorant slave owners whipping the slaves in vain, and the slaves' work efficiency did not improve at all. He was a little angry, so he shouted, "You guys, come here quickly." After calling all the slave owners to the hall, Rohan began to ask them, "Has any one of you been a slave owner before? The previous slave owners all died in battle with Lord Danity, and we are just the family of the previous slave owners. Has no one told you how to reasonably improve the efficiency of slaves?" What? Hearing Rohan's slightly reproachful tone, the slave owners were very dissatisfied. After all, they were working hard. Where can you find a slave owner now? We are all noobs who are being forced to do this. You complain about the low efficiency, and I complain about the lack of slaves. But after all, the guy in front of them will be their boss in the future, so the slave owners can only nod like chickens pecking at rice, but they are not convinced in their hearts. Rohan saw the slave owner's dissatisfaction and realized that his tone seemed too harsh, so he lowered his voice and asked, "Do you want to be a slave owner?" Seeing that all the new slave owners nodded, Rohan patted the table in front of him, waved to them and said, "Come here, I will tell you." Wow, all the slave owners came to the table, waiting for Rohan's instructions. To be a slave owner, you have to come up with clever excuses, win over the weak, reward slaves, and mobilize the enthusiasm of slaves. Only when they are willing to work spontaneously can the overall production efficiency of slaves be improved. When the harvest comes, we will take all the profits, and the slaves will be divided into 30% and 70%. A slave owner couldn't help, but interrupted in confusion. Why do we have to give rewards to slaves? Rewarding slaves is to make them work better. After all, there will be more and more slaves in the future, and you are too tired. I don't understand. Seeing that the slave owners were still confused, Rohan took the whip from the slave owner's hand, waved the whip casually on the butt of an unlucky slave owner, and asked with a smile, "Does it hurt?" "You are talking nonsense." The unlucky slave master rubbed his butt in grievance and answered in a low voice under the teasing eyes of the slave masters around him, "It hurts." "Well, if you are in so much pain, then those slaves must be in more pain than you." The unlucky slave master covered his butt and asked, "Then, be nicer to them?" "But, what's good about being nice? If they are nice, who will work for us?" Rohan returned the whip to the slave master, then slumped down on the velvet chair and continued to teach. "Besides, we worked hard and spent so much money to buy slaves from the slave market, and in the end we have to treat the slaves nicely, then aren't we slaves? Let me ask you, do those slaves fight or discriminate against each other in private?" In response to Rohan's question, several slave masters exchanged glances. One of the slightly thin slave masters thought for a while and answered bravely, "I heard from the previous slave master that those Asur slaves would look down on human slaves, and human slaves would look down on those inferior, horned beasts and radmen." Rohan nodded. It seems that this discrimination chain is the same, whether in Grand Town or Nagarand. The discrimination between slaves is due to racial hatred, which cannot be adjusted. Therefore, we must make good use of hatred and let the weak slaves manage the strong slaves. After all, weak slaves are often bullied. Once they are given some power, they will find ways to retaliate, so that the hatred towards us can be transferred to the slaves themselves. And the weak slaves have become managers. In order to prevent themselves from being overthrown by the strong slaves, they have to rely on us. Wow. It turns out that this is possible. I have learned it. The slave owners were amazed by Rohan's perfect management methods, and they all said that slavery can be like this. The slightly thin slave owner obviously thought more and excitedly continued, "Then can we reward those slaves who perform well, and make other slaves work hard to get rewards, and improve work efficiency?" A teachable child. Rohan looked at the slightly frail slave master with satisfaction, and said to him, "Since you know what to do, you don't need me to teach you, right? Do you know what to do next? Remember, treat, behead, and accept as a dog." "Yes, sir." "Then go down. As long as one of you performs the best, I don't mind letting him be the supervisor of the slaves." The slave masters looked at Rohan with fanatical eyes. This new lord was obviously much more powerful than the original foul-mouthed woman. Now they can't wait to go back to the slums and do a big job. After all the slave masters left, Rohan lay down on the soft chair. He had already given all the instructions, and the next step was to wait for the right time. 1 month later, the room that was originally decorated quite like a girl was painted clean, replaced by neatly stacked bookshelves and a simple alchemical crucible. Grand Town, Level 1 town population. 875 taxes. 746 gold/month. Basic income plus 500 gold. Buildings, Dark Elf Manor. Population plus 20/month. Replenishment speed plus 2%. Looking at Grand Town, which has gradually been put on the right track, Rohan smiled with satisfaction. With the gold coins given by the previous system tasks, Rohan has successfully survived the first month. According to the reconnaissance of the Dark Riders, the ratmen in the mountain mines have not shown any signs of leaving, which gives Rohan a precious month of training time. After a simple training, the new recruits of the Black Sharp Crossbowmen can easily hit the heads of the dummies 100 meters away, which is definitely enough to deal with the group of stinky rats without even shields. As for the possible rat assassins or grey prophets, Rohan touched the bottle hanging on his belt, and a wicked smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. What is contained in it is the result of his busy month, which can definitely teach these walking slaves a profound lesson. PS. I don't have any drafts saved. I'll try to update twice a day. If you like it, please leave a recommendation ticket. Chapter 5 Raid on the Skaven Mines. Damn it. Why hasn't the food come up yet? Stop arguing, or I'll eat you. Yes. Damn it. I miss the slave that ran away last time. Die, slave. At the entrance of the mine, several clan rats holding short knives were standing guard, and from time to time they could be seen arguing with each other in the dry and difficult to understand rat language. Suddenly, one of the ratmen pricked up his ears, and his keen hearing made him feel that someone was approaching in the distance, so he opened his mouth and shouted in fear, "Enemy!" Swish, swish, swish. Just before the ratmen came to their senses, dozens of short and powerful black iron crossbow arrows flew over and shot the ratmen at the door into hedgehogs. After a while, more than a dozen black sharp crossbowmen appeared from behind the stone, came to the side of the ratmen, and recovered the crossbow arrows stuck in their heads. Sir, the infantry have completed the siege of the entire mine. They will never let a single dirty rat escape. Dario, wearing black armor, came to Rohan. Due to his good performance over the past month, he had been promoted by Rohan to become his deputy. Rohan came to the mine and asked Dario mysteriously, "Dario, do you know what is the most threatening thing in an environment like a mine?" Dario hesitated for a moment and asked carefully, "Darkness? It's fire." Rohan rolled his eyes and then led 2 teams of dark swordsmen into the mine. Dario hesitated for a moment and followed with a team of black crossbowmen. After entering the mine, Rohan smelled a very unpleasant stench. The pungent smell made Rohan frown, and then waved his hand and said, "Clean it up." Then, Dario, who was following behind, saw a faint blue light on Rohan's body, purifying the turbid air around him. "Sir, you actually practice magic?" Dario looked at Rohan in horror. "You know, the Witch King has issued an order that no male elves are allowed to learn to use magic, otherwise they will be killed if caught." Rohan saw the panic of Dario and the soldiers, and spread his palms and said, "Don't worry, it's just the use of alchemy and magic items. The Witch King knows about this." Dario then noticed that there was a crystal ring inlaid with sapphires on Rohan's finger, and the power continued to emerge from it to dispel the pollution in the air. "Okay, everyone, pay attention. Didn't you say there were thousands of ratmen before?" Although Rohan said this, he didn't take the ratmen seriously at all. After all, he had followed the Witch King for so many years, and what kind of battles had he not seen? In the battlefield of sweeping the Grinning Clan, hundreds of thousands of ratmen failed to scare Rohan, let alone a few thousand rats. After throwing a glass bottle filled with yellow liquid into the bottomless mine, Rohan began to mutter something. Then, the soldier saw a faint flame gradually rising from the bottom of the mine, and finally, boom. The dark elf soldiers squatting outside the mine felt a burning sensation under their feet, and then saw fire snakes erupting from various holes in the mine, like a doomsday volcano. No. Elves, die. Dario and the soldiers only heard a series of miserable howls from the bottom of the mine. It was obvious that the ratmen in the mine had turned into roasted rats. Then, countless ratmen with flames burning on their fur frantically crawled towards the cave in trance, obviously being forced to rush out to fight. Rohan took out the black iron halberd, pointed at the still burning ratmen and shouted, "Prepare for battle." Free shooting. The ignited ratmen were like eye-catching live targets in the dark mine. In an instant, countless crossbow arrows rained down from top to bottom, pouring down on the rats like raindrops. Every shot of Daruka's crossbow can shoot 5 crossbow arrows with armor-piercing arrows. 90 black sharp crossbowmen can pour out 450 crossbow arrows in a short period of time, shooting the ratmen to tears. Speed up the reload. Don't let the rats rush up. Under Rohan's order, the dark swordsman will set up a shield wall to block the route for the ratmen to climb up. Occasionally, slave rats or clan rats climbed up, and the dark swordsman would elegantly cut their throats with sharp swords. Rohan mixed in with the dark swordsman, and from time to time he used his halberd to save some careless unlucky guy, which greatly boosted the confidence of the dark swordsman. "Look, the boss is with us." For a moment, the rescued dark swordsmen protected themselves more carefully, and all melee defense increased by +10. Just as Rohan was watching the soldiers bravely killing rats with satisfaction, the ring on his finger suddenly trembled slightly, causing Rohan's face to change drastically, and he hurriedly picked up the shield. Guided by the subtle glow light, Rohan's peripheral vision suddenly caught a glimpse of something faintly flashing green light in the corner. Danger. Rohan hurriedly raised his shield and hid behind a dark swordsman. Dark swordsman? Before this unlucky guy could react, Rohan felt the shield receiving a violent impact. The power was so great that he even staggered. Realizing that the unlucky guy in the front row might be finished, he hurriedly hid behind a stone and checked if he was okay. Damn, this ratman is worthy of being a ratman, so baby hot. Rohan looked at the dimensional stone bullet embedded in the shield and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. It was a close call. My shield was not broken. After putting the dimensional stone bullet into his waist bag with a piece of rag, Rohan took out the second bottle of yellow potion with a curse, aimed at the position he just saw, and threw it over. Try this. The flame phosphorus agent made of sulfur and the flamethrower of the war hydra only needs a little high temperature to form a high level spell comparable to that of a fire mage. The flame storm. Boom. There was another violent explosion, and the ratmen hiding in the dark were instantly ignited by the violent flames, wailing and falling into the bottomless mine. Rohan stuck his head out and found that the attack just now was actually a dimensional gun-raising team. No wonder Anity was defeated. After all, if there was no reminder from the guidance ring, I'm afraid I would have the same fate as the previous Dark Swordsman, right? This ring was found by Rohan when he followed the Witch King to attack a high elf merchant ship. At that time, he handed it over to the Witch King as soon as possible. But the Witch King just took it in his hand and looked at it, then threw it to Rohan without interest, asking Rohan to use it for himself. Ring of Guidance, Special Protection +10 Passive Skill, Blessing of Rajlia, the mysterious goddess of the mist will guide you in the direction of progress. The ring can dispel the filthy evil. When the wearer falls into imperceptible danger, the ring will guide the wearer away from danger. Chapter 6 Secret Fire. Seeing his soldiers being shot by the dimension guns and falling into the mines, Rohan was filled with uncontrollable anger. Many of these guys were people Rohan knew in Nagaland. Although they were not outstanding, they were all loyal to him. They were just kids in their 60s and 70s. Because he needed to save the Pyrophosphorus, Rohan could only pick up the crossbows of the dead soldiers on the ground and shoot at the burning rats. Because there were too many ratmen, some of them gradually climbed up through the gap in the shield wall and entered into close combat with some dark swordsmen. The crossbow arrows in the quiver of the black sharp crossbowman were about to run out, so he had to temporarily slow down the frequency of shooting and use single precision shooting to improve the killing efficiency. Damn it, didn't they say there were only 1,000? How come there are still so many? Looking at the huge rats, Rohan, who was already annoyed by the sneak attack, had a faint purple light in his eyes. He rushed out of the bunker and shot at the ratman with a crossbow. A dimensional ratman with a gun pointed his gun at Rohan, but Rohan shot him through the throat with a crossbow arrow in advance. Rohan threw away the crossbow that had run out of arrows, raised his halberd, and swept it across the ratman climbing up the slope, instantly chopping several ratmen into pieces. Drachi soldiers. Kill all the rats, leave no one alive. The other Drachi warriors also had ferocious faces. Like Rohan, a faint purple light appeared in their eyes, which was particularly conspicuous in the dark cave. The dark swordsmen only felt that there was a force supporting their swinging hands, guiding them how to cut the tender throats of the ratmen. The black sharp crossbowmen felt that their senses were sharper than ever before. They could easily see the ratmen in the distance and accurately predict the opponent's movement trajectory at the next moment. So they turned into archers, raising their hands to kill a rat. Killing accomplishment is activated. Effect, plus 25% charge bonus, plus 25% melee attack, plus 20% ranged armor piercing damage, plus 15 leadership, plus 18% physical strength. At this moment, all the elves were immersed in the bloody killing. Even Rohan, who was not interested in Cain, could not suppress his inner madness, and rushed into the rats like a god of war. Die, rats. Every swing and every bloody blow made the purple light in Rohan's eyes stronger, and even a faint purple light began to appear on his body. In the dark, the god of blood hands was watching this battle, looking at this unreligious believer with interest, and this blood feast that made him feel happy. As long as he could bring blood and pleasure to the great god of war, he didn't care whether the blessed elves were pious to him. Just kill, no loyalty. At the other exits of the mine, the dread spearmen formed neat shield walls, blocking the exits like the Great Wall. The square formation of sharp dark spears prevented the ratmen who lacked protective gear from approaching. The ratmen who managed to get out of the mine were chased by the dark riders who had been prepared for a long time. Looking at their fellows who were chopped into pieces in those elf things that looked very strange, several ratmen could no longer hold on and screamed, "The big horned rats didn't protect us. Run, run. Damn pointy ears. Don't you know how expensive the weapons of the Scry clan are? This will be deducted from the deposit." A harsh voice came from the shadows, causing the nearby ratman to move aside in fear. Rohan's face lit up with joy, knowing that the real master he had been waiting for a long time had come. Hualala Rohan took off the entire belt directly and threw all the various potions inside it to the bottom at once, not to kill the guy below, but to seriously injure him. The ratmen who have not yet appeared. The overwhelming potions fell to the ground, instantly causing a violent explosion, and a huge blue flame swept the entire mine. The ratmen at the bottom of the mine were instantly engulfed by the flames, and the ratmen who were climbing were also burned by the flames, screaming and falling into the sea of fire. Dario and the dark elves were frightened by the flames that were about to rush into the tunnel, and retreated again and again. Rohan raised his right hand in time, and a faint white barrier isolated the flames. "Sir, what is this?" The power of secret fire developed using the dwarven craftsmanship. Although it's not as good as the formal rune magic, it works well in dense environments. Rohan looked at his masterpiece with satisfaction. Although he had never used secret fire before, it was obvious that such results made him very satisfied. Seeing the suspicion on Dario's face, Rohan immediately guessed the other party's concerns, and could not help rolling his eyes and sighed. "Don't worry, this is not magic. The Witch King used to be an emissary of the dwarves. He had a good relationship with the Supreme King of the dwarves. He even called himself a tall dwarf for a while. Later, when the Witch King came back, he brought a lot of books about dwarven runes and alchemy. It's a pity that apart from the Witch King, not many people can master this skill. I can only use some rune spells and alchemy roughly, and this is with the occasional guidance of the Witch King." Speaking of this, Rohan could not help but recall the time in the past. Although Nicki Minaj always looks fierce, never cares about the life and death of his subordinates, and always likes to scare people with his green eyes, he is indeed a good man. Ding magical mission, Drachi's Glory Eye, has been completed. 4,000 gold has been deposited in the small treasury, ready for withdrawal at any time. Seeing that the mission reward has been given, Rohan knows that the ratmen below are probably already dealt with. Even if there are any remaining ratmen, they will probably die painfully due to the intense combustion that has drained away all the oxygen. "Sir, the air here is too stuffy. Shall we leave faster?" "Well, let's go. The ratmen below are probably all dead. Remember to take away the bodies of your own people." After all, the heroically dead Durachi cannot be mixed with the dirty rats. Rohan picked up the halberd and called on the soldiers to leave the mine. As for the bodies of the ratmen, let the slaves deal with them. Half an hour later the bottom of the mine was full of ashes from the burnt ratmen. At the bottom of the charcoal, a naked arm stretched out. Squeak, squeak, squeak. PS. Is no one watching? Cack. Chapter 7 Departure. Ahem. Damn pointy ears. A ratman covered in charcoal crawled out of the ashes with difficulty. Because the fur on his body was burnt, the whole rat smelled like barbecue. Touching the broken cat's eye necklace on his neck, the ratman couldn't help but reveal a trace of pain in his eyes, both physically and mentally. This cat's eye necklace was a magical item he won in a duel with a hostile clan. It can release a magic shield when the wearer is dying to resist the threat of death. But Rohan's secret fire continued to burn. Although the necklace tried hard to protect him from harm, it eventually ran out of magic power and became a mortal item. The ratman took off the damaged necklace, looked at the battlefield without a single rat, and cursed to himself. Damn trites. I told you long ago that we shouldn't attack the pointy-eared people's territory at will, and now I'm like this. That's right. Why can't that guy live in peace and security at home, and you want to run out and die? That's right. Why can he hide in Boulder Town and enjoy the good life? Why are you here? The ratman looked at Rohan with horror at the smirk on his face behind him. Rohan kicked the ratman to the ground with a flying kick, then picked up the cat's eye necklace that fell and said, "Nonsense. According to the plot of traditional stories, people like you must have some incredible life-saving stuff on you, and you will escape and bring troops back to avenge me." Then Rohan raised his halberd and pierced the opponent's chest directly. Looking at the ugly face and terrified eyes of the hairless ratman, he grinned. "It's a pity that I'm different from others. I want to see the body even if I die." But, damn it, the sharp halberd blade directly split the opponent's body in half, and then took out a small bag of powder from his arms and carefully sprinkled it on the ratman, who was not dead yet. The ratman who was still alive desperately stopped his melting body. The severe pain made him unable to breathe, and finally lost consciousness. Watching the ratman's body turn into a pool of blood and finally slowly merge into the rock, Rohan was relieved and left the cave. Dario was counting casualties with the leaders. When he saw Rohan coming back, he ran up to report, "My lord, except for the Black Sharp Crossbow Regiment, each regiment has more than half of its casualties. If we recruit soldiers in the town, it will take at least 3 weeks to restore the pre-war state. Well, each household with family members will be compensated with 1 gold coin. Go to the warehouse to collect it." "Yes, my lord." 1 gold coin can be exchanged for 100 silver coins, and this money is enough for an ordinary Durachi family to raise 2 children. Although it is cruel, for the dark elf civilians who widely believe in the joy cult, it is the greatest honor for their children to die in battle and bring benefits to their families. After all, even the common people of Durachi don't have to worry about basic living problems. They just need to work hard to have children and then send them to the battlefield. Next, I can just make money and seek development. When it comes, I can consider taking the troops to other worlds directly. Rohan was very happy. Although Grand Town was not far from Boulder Town, this victory would give Rohan enough time to develop himself. By the way, I should write a letter to the Witch King to announce the good news, so that Grand Town can be under my command. 1 week later, Grand Town. Something is wrong. Very wrong. Rohan frowned and looked at the envelope in his hand. He looked at the several Nagaran blackguards in front of him who he had never seen before, and asked, "Are you sure this letter is from the Lord Witch King himself? Who will take over Grand Town?" "I don't know, but sir, this time it's not just you. Most of the Dreadlords have received the summons. Even Loxer in the New World has received it." The blackguards looked at the old senior in front of them with respect. They were all new recruits who had just been recruited from the Black Tower. They had heard of the captain of the guard who had served the Witch King for 100 years. Rohan looked at the envelope in his hand. The handwriting on it was indeed the Witch King's, but the content was completely different from what he had promised before. Although the Lord Witch King would go back on his words, he almost never broke his promises. But now the letter said that he would send someone to take over Grand Town and he needed to go back. Although he was full of doubts, Rohan decided to lead his army back to Nagarand. After all, He was still nominally the chief guard of the Witch King, so he had better obey. Dario, go and gather the troops, pack up the equipment, and prepare to go to Nagarand. Yes, sir. After receiving the order, Dario went to the barracks to gather the troops. During this period, he was promoted by Rohan to be his deputy because of his hard work and honesty. After Dario left, Rohan called the Black Guards and asked with a smile, "How are Iril and Kaku? They should have become captains now, right?" "Yes, sir. Captain Iril and Captain Kaku are now captains of the Black Tower Guard in Nagarand." "Oh, it seems that they have done a good job after I left." Iril and Kaku are both veterans who have been led by Rohan for decades. They have made many military achievements for the Witch King on the battlefield. According to their qualifications, they are fully qualified to be captains. "Okay, then you all go down and rest. When the army is assembled, we will return to Nagaran together." "Yes, sir." After the Black Guards left, Rohan sighed and silently opened the system that was almost useless except for issuing tasks and checking data. Rohan Dreadlord Finance. 4570. Maintenance cost. 1346. Town income. 1800. Army. 9. To Dark Swordsman, 4 Dread Spearmen, 2 Black Sharp Crossbowmen, 1 Dark Rider, Shield, Officer. 0 current task, none. Passive skill, you go first, I'll cover the rear. Looking at the familiar panel, Rohan couldn't help but laugh at himself. Until now, he didn't know what he should do in this Warhammer world, where the ending was already predetermined. Because 100 years was too long, he almost forgot his memory of his previous life, and even his parents' faces became more and more blurred. This time, I must find a way out. PS. Please recommend some fantasy movies to me. I can add them to the plot as appropriate. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8. Opening the Floodgates. In Nagarand, Rohan held a glass of juice in his hand and calmly looked at the men and women around him who were frantically comforting each other. If there was anything that Rohan could not accept the most in the past 100 years, it would probably be this carnival party in front of him, right? After admiring the perfect figures of several beautiful witches, Rohan pushed away several female sorcerers who coveted his beautiful appearance like Slanesh, and came to the empty rooftop. The cold evening breeze of Nagaran soothed Rohan's somewhat restless heart and blew away the rotten smell on his body. Although he was no longer the chick when he first crossed over, he was not open enough to do such a thing in public. "Why are you drinking alone here?" Suddenly a figure staggered to the rooftop. Rohan turned around and found that the person who came was the leader of the God-blessed evil party who came to Nagarand in response to the call, Loksha, the Fallen Heart. Loksha staggered over with a bottle of wine, and the iconic octopus mask shone with golden light in the moonlight. "You're having so much fun in there, why don't you go find a beautiful sorceress to enjoy yourself with?" Loksha's dull voice came from under the metal mask. The legendary pirate lord was obviously very curious about Rohan's unconventional behavior. Rohan raised the juice in his hand and whispered, "Although the Witch King has always wanted me to be a like-minded partner with other Fear Lords, I don't intend to be a fellow traveler with them." "Hehe, well said." A slightly obscene laugh came from under the mask of Loksha, and then came to Rohan, sniffed Rohan's wine glass and complained, "I have heard of you. The Witch King said that you have the ability to change the world. I thought you should be a brave man, but I didn't expect you to drink such a weak thing. Always keep a clear mind so that you can live longer with the Witch King. Don't worry, the Witch King will not come here today. He has something to deal with." After that, Loksha stood on the rooftop, took off his pants under Rohan's black eyes, and whistled to open the gate to release water. Rohan rolled his eyes. As the former castle manager of Nagarand, he was very dissatisfied with the blasphemous behavior of this octopus face. Then he threw down the things in his hands, jumped onto the rooftop, and opened the gate to release water under the surprised gaze of Loksha. Under the castle, a black guard of Nagarand raised his head and looked at the ice crystals falling from a height curiously. "Is it hail?" but then he retracted his gaze and saluted respectfully to the black-robed figure in front of him. Lord Cull, most of the Dreadlords have obeyed the call of the Lord Witch King and are now holding a party in the banquet hall. How many of them didn't come? Two claimed that their territories were harassed by greenskins, but the messenger sent to deliver the letter did not find any trace of the greenskins. They should have united to disobey orders. Humph, it seems that those two rubbish don't take the Great Witch King seriously. Feeling the strong murderer soar in the air around him, even the battle-hardened blackguard swallowed his saliva. The person in front of him is a devout follower of the Lord Witch King, who is specifically responsible for dealing with the Kane assassins who pretend to obey the Witch King's orders. Cull held a list in his hand, and a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth when he looked at the two names written on it. The Lord Witch King has not been on the battlefield in person for a long time, which seems to have made some lords feel rebellious, but it doesn't matter. As the sharpest dagger in the hands of the Lord Witch King, the Kane assassins will make these guys understand. If loyalty is not absolute, it is absolutely disloyal. Under the awe-inspiring eyes of the blackguards, Cull drew a cross behind the two lords on the list with a pen, and then entered the castle without looking back. In a few days, the great mentor of Kane assassins will personally offer the heads of these two traitors and their families to the Lord Witch King. Brother Cull. The familiar voice made Cull's frosty mouth twitch slightly, and his feet turned faster, and turned into a corner. After a while, Rohan appeared in the corridor with a package, and said to himself with a puzzled look, "Strange, I just saw Brother Kua nearby. Is it because I'm dazzled?" Yes, you are dazzled. Hurry up and get down." With the extraordinary skills of Kane's assassin master, Kua hid his breath tightly, and did not reveal his whereabouts at all. Seeing that Kua was not found, Rohan left with regret, but Kua was not in a hurry to show up. He knew this insidious junior too well. Sure enough, half a minute later, Rohan appeared in the corridor again, checked every corner with a suspicious look, and then left the corridor. After waiting for 5 minutes, and confirming that Rohan had left, Kua fell from the ceiling, left quietly and came to a gorgeously decorated door. In front of the gate, a sturdy warrior in black armor stopped Kua, and said to him carefully, "Lord Kua, Lord Witch King, is discussing the origin and future of the world's development with the sorceress. Please wait here for a moment." Hearing that Lord Witch King was performing such a great ceremony, Kua had to stand in front of the door and wait obediently. After an unknown amount of time, a beautiful sorceress with a ruddy face walked out of the door, trembling with legs, and bowing her head all the way. She left the Witch King's room. Seeing this, Kua stood up, and then Kaku knocked on the door of the Witch King a few times. After a while, the slightly tired voice of Lord Witch King came from inside. "Kaku? What's wrong?" "Lord Witch King, Lord Kua is here. Let him in." Kua entered the room with the list, and then saw Lord Witch King in midnight armor sitting at the table, as if nothing had happened. As Lord Witch King's loyal servant, Kua didn't dare to look around in Lord Witch King's room. After all, it would be bad if he saw something shameful. My Lord Witch King, except for two lords who were unwilling to obey orders, all other lords have responded to the call. A total of 12,000 outstanding warriors are waiting for your orders. Really? I didn't expect that there are actually two people who are not afraid of death. It seems that they have forgotten who gave them everything they have today. Please rest assured, my lord, these disloyal ministers will pay the price. It happened that the Death Witches in the sect have been worried about the lack of high quality blood recently. I guess the blood of these noble heirs has pleased the great Kane, right? Chapter 9 No money. My dear mother, you have also heard about her stupid behavior in the Black Mountains, right? Hearing the cold words without any emotion from the Witch King, Cull dared not speak nonsense, and could only say carefully, "I heard that Lord Morath gathered a large army in the ancient city of Quintex, and attacked the Black Coast. Not only did they fail to win, but they also caused the cities in the Doomsday Forest to be attacked by the boys of Nagaris, and lost many towns. It was so stupid." Feeling the uncontrollable anger of the Witch King, Cull now just wanted to leave quickly. After all, he couldn't tell the Witch King that your mother was a FW. Not only did she lose to the same person twice, but she was also deceived. Back then, the disguised Erisana danced with the Witch King's mother, Morathi, at a carnival party, and then stole 2 treasures from the Witch King's collection, which caused a huge sensation in Nagaris. There are rumors that Eris had done something illegal with Morathi during that time. Although the Witch King killed many people in a rage and tried to suppress the matter, all the Druki knew about this gossip. The two treasures are the Midnight Stone, a token of love given to Morathi by the first Phoenix King Inarion, which can make the holder disappear into the shadows, and the Crown of Nagarath, effect reference, smashing Virudo. According to a rumor spread by a guard captain who did not want to be named, Eris once appeared directly in front of the Witch King's throne with these two treasures, and spat in the Witch King's face, when the Witch King was not prepared. So the Witch King is really pitiful, he lost his mother, and lost the treasure. Under this premise, no one in the entire Nagaland, including the fearless Rohan, dared to mention Eris Anna, the Shadow King in front of the Witch King. But the Witch King soon suppressed his anger. Although Eris's spit had left him with a big shadow, he was a gentleman who would not be late for revenge even after 10 years. The Witch King took out the map. As he had just finished the great exploration of the universe, his mind was clearer than ever before. Let Loxa lead the Black Ark fleet to the desolate coast, to cut off the connection between Ulthuan and Anaheim. Lacus led the army, to attack the homeland of Nagarath to divert the attention of the elves. I will personally lead the army south, to recover the lost territory. It has been too long, since he personally fought. It seems that people have forgotten him, the Witch King of Nagaland, the real Phoenix King of Ulthuan. The next day, the palace hall, the faces of the Fear Lords in front of the throne in the hall were full of fatigue and relaxation. Obviously, last night's carnival had reduced their worries about the war to the lowest level. Rohan was also confused, but he did not participate in the carnival last night, but visited Loxa's Black Ark, the Blessed Evil Party. The Black Ark is the most powerful surface warship of the Dark Elves. Each Black Ark is thousands of meters or even more than 10 kilometers long. At that time, the Witch King was stupid and wanted to use a huge spell to directly destroy the Great Whirlpool without considering the consequences, releasing the bound magic wind and letting the devil come to the world. Fortunately, the caster of the Great Whirlpool, the friend of the first Phoenix King, the dragon tamer Kalida, cast magic, not only successfully stopped the magic flying to the Great Whirlpool, but also bounced it back to Nagarath, which was still a complete version at that time. Nagarath has since become fragmented. Just when the Dark Elves were about to be swallowed by the surging waves, the Witch King led the sorceresses to cast magic and lifted up the broken continent. This is the earliest Black Ark. After thousands of years of evolution, the current Black Ark has long become a huge self-sufficient sea city. With the ability to sail for a long time, the Dark Elves' Black Ark can not only face the world's strongest navy, the troops of the High Elves, without losing the wind, but can even cross the ocean to plunder the humans of the old world. After last night's visit, Rohan decisively gave up the Lord plan he had planned before, and instead planned to save money, to buy a small Black Ark from Loxa in the future. After all, according to Rohan's research, the system's ability to travel through time and space allows Rohan to lead the entire Black Ark through time and space to another world, which is terrifying. With the Black Ark's own conscription building, Rohan can even recruit soldiers with the money he plundered, and then establish a colony in another world. Just as Rohan was still daydreaming, the Witch King finally came to the throne hall, and under the orders of the Lords of Fear, he sat on the same chair as the Phoenix throne. I think you all know the specific situation, and now I will announce your tasks. Wolfgar, Kazan, Mukato. Rohan stood obediently in the crowd, and began to think about how he should get money from this war to buy the Black Ark. But as the orders of the Witch King were gradually issued, Rohan gradually realized that something seemed to be wrong. Why haven't you called me, after calling for so long? Until the Lord Witch King put down the list in his hand, Rohan didn't hear his name. No way. At this moment, Rohan was as nervous as when the teacher called out the names of the students who had passed the homework in school, but found that his poor name was not called. Now all of you go down and reorganize the army. Rohan, follow me later. For a moment, Rohan felt dozens of eyes looking at him. Some were grateful, some were jealous, and some were even resentful. Did they hate me for taking their jobs? In any case, Rohan was relieved in his heart. After all, there was work to do, and there must be money to be made. After everyone left, the Witch King stared at Rohan with his green eyes, and only when he saw Rohan's goose bumps all over his body, did he slowly say, "The gold in the treasury is almost used up. HMM. Impossible? Aren't the mines in the Frost Iron Mountains still open? My advanced slave economy is actually out of money? You must know that, although Nagaroth is in a land of eternal winter, the endless mountains and forests are full of large and small mines. As long as there are enough slaves, there is basically no shortage of money. Chapter 10 Obtaining the Black Ark. Looking at the green pupils of the Witch King, Rohan couldn't figure out what he was thinking. If he was really short of money, there was no need to tell him. After all, although he had more than 1,000 Durachi soldiers, they were all basic level 1 and 2 soldiers. Could he still expect his rabble to go on an expedition to Ulthuan and take down the Phoenix throne for the Witch King? Just as Rohan was thinking about the significance of the Witch King, the corners of the Witch King's mouth under the mask sitting on the throne slightly raised and said, I heard that you are saving money recently and want to buy a Black Ark. Yes, sir. I originally planned to gain some money through this war and then go to the Fallen Heart family to buy a small Black Ark. What if I can give you one directly? Give me one directly? Rohan was frightened by the Witch King's sudden proposal. He immediately realized that the Witch King's proposal might not be that simple, and there must be some additional conditions. However, due to his desire to own a Black Ark of his own, Rohan suppressed his doubts and asked curiously, as far as I know, there are no other Black Arks in Nagaroth except the Navy, and the Navy will go to the war next, so there should be no extra quota. Facing Rohan's confusion, the Witch King did not mean to answer, but skipped the topic and continued, I will provide you with a large Black Ark, but in return, you must go to the other world to bring me half of the plundered wealth in the next 50 years. Large Black Ark. Half. It sounds like a big loss, but Rohan knows that strictly speaking, he is definitely making money from this deal. Every Black Ark is a priceless treasure that is difficult to replicate. After all, even the smallest Black Ark can be self-sufficient in the vast ocean. Therefore, the cost of a large Black Ark is an astronomical figure for Rohan now. The Witch King's requirement is only half of the income in 50 years. Although it sounds a lot, it is not a lot compared to the high price of the Black Ark. The Witch King looked at Rohan, who was thinking under the throne, and his heart was calm because he knew that Rohan would definitely agree to his proposal. As early as when they met 100 years ago, Malekith saw that Rohan, a dark elf with the ability to travel through time, was destined to be extraordinary, which was why he had been training him for so many years. Economically, the wealth of the other world can continuously flow into the market of Nagaroth, and those nobles and lords who love collecting will definitely not be stingy with their wallets. Militarily, whether it is magic from the other world or novel weapons, they will be the help that the Witch King can use to seize the Phoenix throne in the future. For these, the Witch King did not mind showing kindness to this lucky little Druki, and he was so kind that he did not even choose to imprison Rohan's soul directly in his hands. My Lord Witch King, as you wish. In the next 50 years, I will do my best to bring you enough spoils. Very good. The Witch King looked at Rohan with satisfaction, and then waved to the shadows. Rohan then noticed that the assassin master mentor Kull was standing there holding a box. Grand Town belongs to you now. From today on, you will officially become a Dreadlord and the Admiral of the Black Ark. Now you can take your army to the port, where there is the large Black Ark you want. Yes, Lord Witch King. I will let the people of the other world sing praises to Lord Witch King, and the money and glory will belong to you. Then Rohan left the palace hall and ran to the port of Nagaroth impatiently. Each large Black Ark is a super battleship thousands of meters long, and now such a magnificent battleship will belong to him. Looking at Rohan's leaving back, Kull was silent. He used to think that Rohan was the illegitimate son of Lord Witch King, but he didn't expect to learn such a shocking secret now. Lord Witch King, in order to prevent Rohan from having a rebellious heart, do you need to place people on his Black Ark? No need. Rohan is a smart man. He knows what to do to benefit himself the most. Malekith narrowed his eyes. He also hoped that Rohan's strength would become stronger and stronger, so that he would be more beneficial to himself in future wars. Military dock, sir. Is this our own Black Ark? Dario looked at the huge ship in front of him, which was 6 kilometers long and 2 kilometers wide, in shock, and couldn't help but sigh. I didn't expect that there would be such a huge ship in this world. I always thought that the rumored Black Ark was exaggerated. Rohan was also very satisfied with the Black Ark, but there seemed to be a problem. I wonder why the Witch King is so generous. It turns out that all the buildings on it have been demolished. After boarding the Black Ark, thousands of meters of open flat land came into view. Except for the magic sails, used to control the course and the Admiral's castle, there were no buildings on the entire Black Ark. What made Rohan speechless was that the magic turrets, which were unique to the large Black Ark, were also demolished. As the most important naval weapon of the Black Ark, the magic turrets can collect the magic wind in the air without relying on the ability of the warlock, and launch various powerful magic shells. At the same time, these magic turrets can also provide fire support for the pirates landing, and bombard the enemy's walls or formations. Although he was a little unhappy about the demolition of the magic turret, Rohan was still very satisfied with this war fortress. After all, he saw dozens of Reaper ballistas on the side of the ship. Unlike magic turrets, this war machine specialized in killing, can fire a crossbow arrow that can penetrate the skin of a dragon, or a dozen hail bullets composed of heavy hammers and chains. Rohan had seen this kind of weapon in the war market of Nagarand. The cost of each Reaper ballista was quite high, and now the dozens of ballistas left were enough to satisfy Rohan. P.S. The First World is going to write a fantasy movie, Jack the Giant Slayer. Chapter 11 Preparation. Large Black Ark, World Colonizer, Equipped Weapons, Crossbows * 40, Soldiers, Black Ark Pirates * 2, Dark Swordsman * 6, Dread Spearman * 4, Dark Shadows * 1, Black Sharp Crossbowman, with shields * 4, right square bracket, buildings, pirate cabins, temples, no offerings. Dark Elf Manor. A month has passed since the Witch King led his army to leave Nagarand. During this time, Rohan has been staying in the port of Nagarand, building the necessary facilities on the Black Ark, while recruiting soldiers to prepare for the journey to the other world. After all, as a cautious person, Rohan was able to endure not traveling through the world again for 100 years, because he was worried that he might travel to a high magic world. Please, the Chaos 4 gods in the Warhammer world are already terrifying enough. What if I travel to the other world and provoke even more terrifying beings? Exclamation mark. For this expedition to the other world, Rohan even spent all his money and expanded the size of his army to nearly 2,000 people. He didn't ask for the ability to capture towns in other worlds and establish colonies, but he also had to ensure that his Black Ark could protect itself when it arrived in another world. What surprised Rohan the most during this period was that he was lucky enough to meet a team of shadows. These descendants of losers in the political struggle thousands of years ago, with their persistence and hard work, became famous looters and hunters in the entire Nagaroth. Thousands of years of survival in the wilderness have made shadows an excellent scout and lurker, and they are simply excellent soldiers tailor-made for explorers of other worlds like Rohan. Now, everything is ready, we just need to find a god to worship, and we can set off. In the castle of the Black Ark, Rohan looked at his giant ship that had consumed his energy for a month with satisfaction, and began to think about the last thing he had to do, hug thighs. Although Rohan didn't know whether the elven gods in the Warhammer world would be useful in the other world, he still built a temple to worship gods. What he needs to consider now is whose thighs he should hug. The first one to be ruled out is the elven god of war, Cain. The reason is simple. It is mainly because in the past 100 years, Rohan has seen too many crazy Cain believers and various blood sacrifices, which made Rohan have a very bad impression of Cain. It should be said that Rohan has a bad impression of all underground gods. The elven gods are mainly divided into two categories. One is the ruler of heaven, collectively known as the gods of heaven. The other is a ruler of the underground world, known as the underground gods. Cain belongs to the underground gods, and he is the strongest among the underground gods. Just for this reason, Rohan has decided not to let his army, the Black Ark and Cain, have anything to do with each other. Anyway, the skill, killing accomplishment, is a passive skill written in the skill column. Even if Cain does not borrow it, his army can rely on the system to get Cain's power for free. Since he has given up the underground gods, Rohan can only choose to believe in the gods of heaven. First, exclude Lilith. Looking at the list of 8 gods of heaven, that he listed in his hand, Rohan crossed out Lilith's name without hesitation. A goddess who is using the holy grail to wash feet. RQIU. Rohan doesn't even want to contact this goddess who is full of lies. The famous green tea goddess's excellent record includes, but is not limited to, opening a small account, disguising as the Lady of the Lake, tricking the Knights of Britannia into drinking her foot-washing water, and then working for her. Intending to lure and kill the wood elf Queen Ariel, and unify the three elves, but the result was counterproductive. Kidnapped and sold handsome teenagers, often taking home poor homeless boys. N items omitted below. The countless crimes are enough to show the danger of this foot-washing water goddess, not to mention that Lilith has never helped the Dark Elves, so Rohan would never want to have anything to do with Lilith. After excluding Lilith, Rohan fell on Azurian and Hoss, and after hesitating for a moment, he crossed out their names. First of all, Azurian, as the Lord of Heaven and the God of Creation, he is a bastard. Since the death of the first Phoenix King Inarion, any elf who wants to become the Phoenix King needs to jump into the holy fire of Azurian and burn to ashes, and Azurian will redescend a perfect body for them. However, the last person who did this was the Witch King, Malekith. After being almost roasted into bacon, the Witch King left Althan. However, no one knew that the Witch King was actually chosen by Azurian the moment he entered the holy fire. At that time, Azurian was happily preparing to bless Malekith in the fire pit, but he was stunned to see Malekith jumping out of the fire pit with a howl, because he was afraid of pain. As the son of the first Phoenix King Inarion, Malekith was fully qualified to become the Phoenix King, and Azurian did think so. Azurian, who thought he was rejected, sighed, and was about to wait for Malekith to enter the holy fire next time, when he suddenly found that an elf who did not meet his identity had entered the fire pit, and he actually cheated by using the despicable fire avoidance tactics. From then on, the angry Azurian cursed all the Phoenix Kings who came after him. Every Phoenix King would have problems with his personality, and would not have a good end in the end. As a result, the entire elves split into two races, because of Azurian's reason, and a civil war lasted for tens of thousands of years. Rohan did not intend to pray to such a pitiful god. Hoth, the god of command and magic, was indeed a good god, and often responded to the requests of believers. But the problem was that Rohan learned to use the dwarven rune magic, and the Witch King did not allow him to learn the magic of the wind of magic, so it was useless, even if he worshipped Hoth. Then, Val, the god of craftsmen, Aisha, the goddess of fertility, Lek, the god of music, and Curus, the god of hunting, were all excluded by Rohan. These gods were either because they did not care about the believers, or because they were not suitable. In short, they were all excluded by Rohan. Only the Mist Lady, Redelia, was left. Looking at the last god left on the list, Rohan could not help but look at the ring of guidance on his hand, and fell into deep thought. Redelia is the patron goddess of Iris, the patron saint of lost things and travelers. For Rohan, the time traveler, Redelia can protect him from getting lost when traveling through the world. How perfect. There is just one small problem. This goddess shouldn't be the smurf of that asterisk person Lilith. P.S. The long and boring plot transition is the most annoying thing when reading novels. But when I was writing, I found that this thing is so important. Not only can it be used to introduce the plot, but it is also a great way to make up the word count. Cac. Chapter 12. The goddess arrives. Although he had some doubts about Redelia's identity, Rohan still wanted to give it a try. There are already enough scumbags among the gods of the elves. It's impossible that all of them are seriously ill in the brain, right? Rohan prayed secretly. After all, Redelia was the only god who seemed reliable at present. If something unexpected happened again, Rohan would have to consider whether to believe in some unknown gods that were not recognized. Confirmed temple faith, Lady of the Mist Redelia. As the system's prompt sounded into his ears, Rohan suddenly felt a warm power gradually spreading from the Black Ark. Almost at the same time, all the crew members on the Black Ark felt this power. In the originally empty temple, a white marble statue several meters high was slowly rising. The solemn statue was looking at the Darachi below like a real god descending to the earth. The Darachi stared at the gorgeous stone statue that rose out of thin air with their eyes wide open. They had never seen such a gorgeous statue. Even the cane statue in Hargancy could not give them such a sacred feeling. The soft long gauze made of gold and silk covered the lifelike and delicate body of the stone statue. The snow white marble was as translucent as the snow white skin of a girl. On the face of the statue, a translucent veil covered the girl's face. Some fascinated Durachi tried to peek at the girl's face through the gauze, but the girl's face was always covered by a layer of light mist. Facing this solemn statue inlaid with gems and gold, even the predatory black ark pirates and shadows could not show any greed in their hearts. It's perfect. This is a miracle. Who is this god? Why haven't I seen it before? It's the Lady of the Mist. As the statue was built, Rohan couldn't help but look at the ring on his finger. He could feel the power of Rajlia coming. Sure enough, as a white light fell from the sky, the consciousness of Lady of the Mist Rajlia officially arrived. Seeing this, Rohan, who was in the governor's castle, directly flipped out of the window, kept jumping on the castle, and finally landed on the deck composed of rocks of the Black Ark. After all, I have prayed to Cain for so many years, but I have never seen him descend. Now I can be blessed by the god I have never worshipped before. It's great. Rohan looked at the enthusiastic people in the audience, turned around and knelt on one knee in front of the statue, and said with a pious look, "Great goddess, we are about to embark on an expedition. At this important moment, we have successfully welcomed you. This must be a gift from heaven." Rajlia, sitting in heaven, couldn't help but blink. A gift from heaven? I don't think I said I would recruit you as believers, right? I was originally in the palace of Iris, eating hot pot and singing, and suddenly I was brought to this temple, and there were a group of dark elf believers. However, after seeing the statue built for her by Rohan's system, the little temper in Rajlia's heart disappeared instantly. The pious elves who can build such a beautiful statue for themselves, even if they are dark elves, are believers worthy of her careful protection. Rajlia looked at Rohan and the ring on his hand. She recognized that it was a ring she had blessed, and it was filled with her divine power. Rohan's heart skipped a beat. He felt a gentle gaze falling on him, so he quickly put on a pious look, and looked at the statue with sincere eyes. This young man is quite handsome. With his face that even Slanesh would admire, and the blessing of the system, Rohan successfully gained Rajlia's favor. In addition, Rohan looked like a pious apostle, which immediately made Rajlia feel that this young man was a promising talent. Rohan knelt on one knee obediently. He could not sense whether Lady Mist was looking at him, but this did not affect his praise for the lady. "Lady, your appearance will illuminate the way forward for us lost lambs. We are about to embark on an unknown journey. May you be able to dispel the confusion that blocks us." Although Rohan was an atheist in his previous life, he still felt an unprecedented shock in front of this statue. Please, this is a real god descending. Looking at the crazy growth of the values on his attribute panel, Rohan decisively worshipped under the statue, hoping that his values would increase faster. In order to gain benefits for himself and his subordinates, Rohan did not mind licking this elegant and solemn goddess. Those licking dogs in the previous life were weak. Look at what I'm licking. Moreover, during it, Rajlia was still protecting the believers of Iris. Isn't such a serious and responsible goddess worth licking? Seeing the faint white light coming out of Rohan's body, after he came to the statue to worship, the Durachi warriors also decisively abandoned their previous belief in Cain, and knelt down one after another. "Get up, child. Let me take a good look at you." As a stream of light floated out of the statue, Rohan only felt a force gently lifting himself up, which gave Rohan a strange idea in his heart. No matter whether she is Rajlia or Lilith, if the other party can really bless his expedition to another world, he doesn't mind who his faith is. P.S. In it, Rajlia's identity was finally revealed. It turned out that she was indeed Lilith's alias. However, the setting in my novel is somewhat different from it. You will know it later. Chapter 13. Let's discuss something. I saw that if you update 3000 words a day for 30 consecutive days, you can get investment points. So how about we update 3000 words per chapter in the future? After all, my ability is limited, and I don't have the amazing writing skills of other authors. So how about one chapter with 3000 words? Chapter 14. Skaven Pirates. Time seemed to be stagnant. Whether it was the snowflakes flying in the sky or the sound of the waves on the sea, they all stopped at this moment. Rohan's eyes widened. This holy light seemed to be able to purify his soul, sweeping away all the negative emotions that he had suppressed in his heart for the past 100 years. Both the upper limit of life and the power are increasing. So generous? Rohan didn't know that the reason why he was favored by Rajlia was that he was handsome, and on the other hand, he was the first person to spread her faith outside of Ulthuan. Rohan on this side was feeling the changes in the values on the system panel with joy, and Rajlia on the other side was also happily harvesting the power of faith from Rohan and the Durachi warriors. In the Warhammer world, the power of faith is very strong. Even an ordinary wooden stick can easily beat a chaos demon to death after thousands of years of prayer, and gods like Rajlia can enhance their power by absorbing the faith from mortals. After a few minutes, Rohan felt the holy light shining on him slowly disappear, and his values on the system panel also stopped increasing. Rohan, Admiral of Terror, Armor Strength 90, Silver Shield, Leadership 75 Movement Speed 40 Melee Attack 45 Magic Attack, Melee Defense 77 Blessing of Rajlia plus 10% Weapon Power 350 Armor Breaking Damage, Charge Bonus 35 over 55. Great. I didn't expect that I could become stronger without drinking foot washing water. Looking at his blessed magic attack and armor breaking damage, Rohan couldn't help but draw the sword at his waist to test it. Boom. Under the astonished gaze of the Durachi warriors, a faint white light appeared on Rohan's sword, flickering slightly with Rohan's movements. New features. Gaze of the Goddess of Mist. After being blessed by Lady Rajlia, your weapon will be shrouded in holy light, and any evil will be brought to justice. Weapon acquisition features. Magic attack. Armor piercing damage item upgrade. Ring of Guidance plus 15% special protection. Active skill. Mist shield. Mist Lady always protects her believers, and a magic shield will be generated after use. Looking at the ring that was constantly emitting blue light in his hand and the holy light shining on the sword, Rohan took this opportunity to stand up, raised his sword high, and swore to the warriors, who were still kneeling on the ground. Soldiers, Lady Rajlia has blessed us, and she will watch over our expedition. Let's go, my warriors, let us gain our own wealth and glory in the other world. Yeah. The soldiers cheered, and the Shadow and Black Ark pirates also drew their weapons and swore allegiance to Rohan. These arrogant warriors originally looked down on Rohan, the upstart Admiral of Fear. If Rohan had not promised the wealth of the other world, they would not have boarded Rohan's Black Ark at all. However, looking at this shocking scene, they were all full of expectations for their next journey, and they were full of confidence in Rohan, who was blessed by Ms. Rajlia. Hearing Rohan say that he wanted to conquer the other world, Rajlia did not take it to heart. As her consciousness faded, Rajlia returned to her palace. At this time, she did not know Rohan's identity as a traverser, and thought that the other world Rohan was talking about was the old road. Realizing that Ms. Rajlia had left, Rohan retracted his sword, and said to Dario, who was still immersed in the glory of the goddess, notify everyone to pack all the supplies they need. We will set off tonight. First, go to the sea to get familiar with the driving of the Black Ark, and then set off to the other world. Yes, sir. Dario saluted Rohan with admiration, and then retreated. He used to be just an ordinary captain of the Grand Town Guard. If he hadn't met Rohan, he would probably have spent a simple life in Grand Town. A few days later, ready, fire, swish, 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 a series of crossbow arrows flew out from the Black Ark, easily piercing the small warships of the Skaven pirates. The ship is going to sink. Attack the ship with pointed ears. There is still hope of survival. Kalara are on the sea. Hundreds of small Ratman ships surrounded the Black Ark like ants, and the Ratman pirates on it tried to climb onto the Black Ark with iron hooks and ropes. However, the black sharp crossbowmen on the deck were not vegetarians. The waves on the sea could not shake the Black Ark at all, so the crossbowmen could easily aim at the Ratman who tried to climb. Yes. Yes. I'm coming up. I'm coming up. Why is there a wall? A clan rat who was lucky enough to climb onto the rock deck was about to attack the elves, but suddenly found in despair that a black wall several meters high blocked his way. This fledgling Skaven pirate fleet had never seen the Black Ark and had no idea that the Black Ark was actually a mobile fortress on the sea. Rohan sneered at the confused ratman on the deck and ordered the black crossbowman beside him, "Don't be stingy with ammunition. We brought millions of arrows this time, shoot them hard." Hearing the boss say this, the black crossbowmen all showed a grim smile at the corners of their mouths, and in an instant, a rain of arrows shot at the rats, who were at a loss under the city wall. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The screams were endless. Due to the lack of siege equipment, these unfortunate rats could only crowd between the deck and the city wall, without any power to fight back. "Go and dismantle the mast. Put it on the city wall. Quick, quick." A storm rat wearing red heavy armor waved a long halberd, constantly picking up the crossbow arrows shot at him, and at the same time roared at the clan rats hiding behind him. The clan rats who received the order immediately took action. They drove the slave rats without any protective gear to take down the long ladders and masts from their clothes, and risked their lives to come to the city. The crossbowmen poured arrows frantically to the city. However, as more and more ratmen climbed up the wall, even Shadow and the Black Ark pirates came to the wall to fill the gradually decreasing firepower gap. Looking at the ratmen swarming under the wall, Rohan snorted coldly, threw a few bottles of flaming phosphorus from his arms into the rats, and then began to chant spells. Boom. Blue flames exploded from the rats, instantly devouring the ratmen surrounded by the wall. The ignited rats let out miserable cries and even stagnated the ratmen's offensive. However, soon, more ratmen rushed up, shared the burned ratmen, and then continued to attack. Looking down from the sky, you can see a large number of small boats gradually heading towards the Black Ark. "Sir, there are too many. Sir, the crossbow arrows on the city wall are in short supply. Sir, the ratmen's ladders have been put on the city wall." More and more bad news was reported from various leaders, and Rohan asked impatiently, "Damn it, is there no one to report some good news?" Seeing that no one answered, after waiting for a long time, Rohan had to sigh helplessly and throw himself into the battle with the ratmen again. Since setting sail, the world colonizer has been wandering on the sea. The crew members are familiar with how to operate this behemoth and prepare for the next expedition. After more than a week of training, the Black Ark came to the vast ocean to make final preparations for going to the other world. However, just as Rohan was about to cross, an accident happened. Warning: there are hostile forces within 500 range. Forcible crossing will have unknown effects. Do you want to continue? Then, Rohan saw nearly 1,000 ratman pirate ships rushing towards his Black Ark. At this time, Rohan looked at the unknown impact marked in red on the system panel, sighed, and put his finger down. "We have come this far, just to be able to go to the other world steadily. How can we take unknown risks for some dirty rats? Be careful. It's a fire-breathing rat." A sharp cry woke Rohan from his brief absence, and then Rohan saw a fluorescent green sturdy figure from the rat group below. "It's a fire rat." Back then, Rohan followed the Witch King to participate in the mopping up war, to wipe out the Grinning clan, and witnessed this unusual dimensional weapon user. Unlike ordinary Skaven weapon teams, these strong lunatics can not only use dangerous dimensional stone weapons alone, but also disregard the safety of themselves and their teammates. Rohan once saw with his own eyes that a fire rat ignited its backpack and madly pounced on a manticore that had no time to dodge and turned into a huge green mushroom cloud together. Thinking that this rat might blow down his city gate, Rohan kept shouting to the crossbowmen around him, "Aim at that big guy first. Don't let him get close to the city wall." Then he raised the black iron halberd and threw it at the fire rat that was constantly shuttling among the rats. Roar, RRR. Seeing that there was nowhere to hide, the fire rat's blood-red eyes flashed with madness. While making waves of terrifying roars, he aimed the dimensional flamethrower in his hand at the crossbowmen on the city wall who were shooting arrows. Rohan's face changed drastically, and he hurriedly raised the guidance ring in his hand that was blessed by Rajlear again, and opened the magic shield to the maximum. Huolala, the liquid green flame instantly covered the entire shield, and the blue barrier was corroded and crackled, but it still kept the evil green flame out. However, those soldiers who were not covered by the shield were miserable. The flames attached to them easily burned their armor and ate away their flesh and bones. Ah! If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15, The Sneak Attack of the Clan of the Sorrowtail. If the most feared pirates in the Warhammer world are dark elves and vampires, then the most frightening ones are Skaven pirates. Unlike the Krull Druki and the hard-to-kill vampires, Skaven pirates are definitely not the most elite pirates, but they are definitely the most numerous. Each Skaven pirate fleet is composed of hundreds or thousands of ships of different sizes. With an absolute advantage in numbers, they always rush forward and rush into the merchant fleets of humans or elves and defeat the entire fleet with fast and frequent offensives. And this is exactly the combat strategy of them, the Clan of the Sorrowtail. Ah, look at this big ship. If we can possess it, then our Clan of the Sorrowtail might be noticed by the adults of the 13th Council. On the dilapidated Bretonnian warship, a black-haired ratman with a dirty gauze wrapped around his tail was looking at the huge black ark from afar and couldn't help muttering, "Too perfect, yes, yes. It must be mine. Even the big horned rat can't stop it," I said. "Master Mickey, Master Fire Rat has already blasted open the gate of pointy ears, but it doesn't matter. Let all the storm rats go and take down this big ship in one go." "Yes, yes." Hearing that the fire rat had successfully blasted open the gate, Mickey showed a disgusting smile at the corner of his mouth. It is worthy of being the latest product of the Scry clan. It is worth spending hundreds of dimensional stones to recruit one with great difficulty. Seeing more and more rats successfully landing on the ship, Mickey could no longer hold back his greed and said to the storm rat guards behind him, "Hey, let's go to the ship and take a look so that those slaves don't know what's valuable and break it." In Mickey's view, the moment this behemoth was surrounded by rats, it had already become his possession and there was no possibility of escape. However, when he finally passed through the heavy ships and came to the Black Ark, he found a bunch of slave rats and clan rats hiding here timidly and dared not move forward. "What are you rats doing? The gates are already open. Why don't you attack quickly?" "Master Mickey, there are pointy ears guarding the door. We can't get in." "What? Is there an elite force with pointy ears on this ship?" Mickey was so scared that he stepped back slightly. If there really was a force with pointy ears that could withstand the attack of so many rats, he would not hesitate to give the battlefield to other rats. A clan rat captain saw Mickey's cowardice and felt a little disdainful, but still pretended to be afraid and looked at Mickey and said, "My lord, there is a terrible pointy-eared man blocking the city gate. He killed nearly 2 teams of clan rats by himself." "What a joke. 2 teams? Don't make excuses for your failure. You, go up and kill that pointy-eared man." Hearing this, Mickey jumped up like a rat whose tail was stepped on. He immediately ordered a very tall storm rat behind him to climb up. "Black Ark, on the city wall, quick, shoot. Cover my lord with all your strength." Dario also jumped up and frantically commanded the surrounding crossbowmen to cover the killing mad Rohan below. The city gate had been blown open, and Rohan, covered in blood, stood at the city gate like the god of death. In front of him were countless ratman corpses that had been chopped into pieces. After he jumped off the city wall, he desperately killed the fire rat with the dimensional flamethrower, but he still failed to prevent it from self-detonating before death, causing a hole in the city gate. The black iron halberd had disappeared with the explosion, but Rohan still had magic power in his body, so he injected Rajlia's power into his sword and continued to kill. In the rat swarm, a clan rat tried to stab Rohan with a spear, but Rohan used his sword to cut him and the ratmen around him in half. In Helmile, Cain, the bloody hand god, was happily enjoying this feast of killing, lending his power to Rohan who was fighting in the sea of blood. Although Rohan abandoned Cain's sect and became a mist walker, this did not affect Cain's love for this elf who constantly brought him blood and killing. After repelling the ratmen surrounding him, Rohan knelt on one knee, inserted his left hand into the pool of blood, and roared, "Destruction." Dwarf language. As the orange-yellow runes carved on Rohan's palm slowly faded, the entire Black Ark trembled violently. Rohan, who was furious, didn't care how much damage this move might cause to the deck of the Black Ark. Due to the influence of Kane's power, he now had almost no reason. Rumble. Pillars of fire gushed out from the rock deck, instantly igniting the ratmen on the deck and the warships near the Black Ark, and spreading to the surroundings of the Black Ark. Quick, put out the fire. The ratmen near the sea hurriedly jumped into the sea to put out the fire, while the ratmen left on the deck wailed and rolled on the ground, just like the dark elf soldiers who were ignited by the dimensional flames. Looking at the purgatory-like scene in the rat world, Rohan finally regained some sanity. He blinked his eyes and muttered with a toothache, "MD, it's a waste. It's all Kane's fault." Just now, Rohan used his only master level red flame rune, which was originally intended for emergency use, when Rohan encountered danger in the other world. Unexpectedly, it was used on a group of rats. Looking at the broken rock deck on the Black Ark, Rohan couldn't help but take a breath, not because he was amazed at the power of rune magic, but because he felt sorry for the money. The reason why the Black Ark can float on the water is because the rocks underneath have been cast with magic, allowing them to hold up the castle and sail on the water. Now, although only a layer of rock on the surface is damaged, Rohan feels a headache when he thinks about how much money it will cost to repair it. It hasn't even arrived in the other world yet, and he has to overdraw money to repair the ship. Just when Rohan sighed that his own business was not halfway done, and he was poor, the rats under the Black Ark were in trouble. These captains knew very well that, even if they captured the Black Ark, it would only benefit the clan leader Mickey, who did not suffer too much loss, while they themselves would suffer heavy casualties. Therefore, even if they had to risk being expelled from the clan, they had to give priority to rescuing their own pirate ship. After all, if they were expelled from the Soratail clan, they could take their pirate ship to another clan if they couldn't fight. If the ship was gone, then everything would be over. Even some genius captains whose pirate ships were burned had already set their sights on those pirate ships that had not been burned yet. Damn bastard. That's my ship. It doesn't matter. When you die, your ship will be mine. Damn it, rats. Take back our ship. Otherwise we can only drift on the sea. At first, it was just a conflict between the two captains, but soon, this distrust spread among the entire Soratail clan, and finally turned into civil strife. Even Mickey, who was reorganizing the fleet, looked at the storm rats around him with vigilant eyes, always worried that these guards would take advantage of his burns to kill him and take over. But Mickey is not stupid. Although he really wants to teach those rat captains who are in civil strife a lesson now, he knows that the most important thing now is to stay away from the Black Ark. People's hearts have been scattered. If the pointed ears and the big ship come out now, he will be easily defeated. If he accepts these small fish, retreat. Shit. Before Mickey finished speaking, dozens of purple figures pulling ropes jumped down from the Black Ark. Among them, there was a figure that jumped down directly and hit a storm rats who couldn't dodge in time. The visitors were Rohan and the Black Ark pirates who were good at boarding battles. Pulling the halberd out of the rat's body, Rohan revealed a crazy smile. His purple pupils swept over the ratmen in front of him who were too scared to approach, and he murmured, "You want to get away so easily after killing my people? It's not that easy." These Black Ark pirates did not suffer any losses because they were arranged by Rohan behind the city wall so that they could fight after repelling the ratmen. Mickey looked at these pointed ears that kept jumping between the ships in horror and hurriedly shouted to the storm rats and clan rats behind him, "Stop him." Hearing the order, the rats had to muster up their courage, waving their halberds and daggers, and rushed towards Rohan, who was covered in blood. Rohan yelled, "Come on," holding the halberd with both hands around his waist, and slashed at these incompetent rats with 1,000 pounds of force. For a moment, the heads of more than a dozen ratmen were far away from their necks, and only those elite storm rats barely avoided Rohan's slashing range with their body flexibility. The Black Ark pirates around were not to be outdone, and they kept waving their swords in waves, elegantly and swiftly harvesting the heads of the surrounding ratmen. The desperate ratmen around tried to use the tetanus blades in their hands to attack these swift-moving pointed ears, but they were pierced through the chest by the pirates instead, and fell to the ground unwillingly. The blades that luckily chopped on the Black Ark pirates would be blocked by the tough sea dragon skin, and could not penetrate their bodies at all. The scales of war seemed to be tilting towards Tarachi. P.S. Please give the children some recommendation votes. 3,000 words for a single chapter is quite tiring cack. Chapter 16. Attack of the Armored Mice. As the fire spread, more and more pirate ships fled the battlefield under the command of the Skaven captain, and wandered in the distance. After splitting the last Skaven in sight in half, Rohan leaned on his halberd, and took a deep breath. Since jumping off the wall, Rohan has been fighting with overdrawn physical strength. Although he has the power of Cain, he still can't stand the power of the Skaven. It's too much. Looking at the surrounding ships, the Battle of the Black Ark Pirates is also coming to an end. With the use of grappling hooks and ropes, these pirates can move flexibly between ships, and the speed of chasing and killing the fleeing Skaven is much faster than Rohan. Looking at these good guys who are constantly harvesting lives among the Skaven, Rohan couldn't help but touch his chin, and a gratified smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Due to the attribute bonus of the Black Ark, these Black Ark pirates, who originally needed 163 gold coins per month for maintenance, now only need 62 gold coins, which is really too profitable. The most important thing is that these pirate troops only need to build an island cabin on the Black Ark, and Rohan can use gold coins to summon pirates from the cabin continuously. Maybe I can consider sending out dozens of teams of pirates in the future, and then plunder along the outer ring of Ulthuan. Just as Rohan was daydreaming about the future, he suddenly heard a system prompt. Artifact mission Glory of Durachi II triggered. The dirty rats are trampling on Durachi's dignity. They dare to besiege the Black Ark now. What terrible things they can do in the future, this system dare not imagine. Go and defeat the rat troll at the bottom of the cabin. Use its blood to write the blood and glory of Durachi. Mission progress. Chief of the Sawtail clan Mickey 0/1 mutant rat troll 0/1 reward. 12,000 gold. Random magic items from another world. Rat troll? Rohan frowned slightly. He had seen rat trolls on the battlefield when the Witch King conquered the Grinning clan, but he had never heard of mutants like this from the corrupted clan. However, those rat trolls could not play a big role even on the battlefield at that time, because the shield wall and sharp spears formed by the dread spearmen could easily deal with these big rats without armor. Just finish the test. A team of dread spearmen can beat the rat trolls in a single duel, and it is an epic victory. Too outrageous. However, Rohan is quite interested in that random magic item. I wonder if it will give me an Ultraman transformer? Well, after all, the final boss that can be used as an artifact task should not be too weak. Let's prepare in advance. Out of caution, Rohan still took out a small red bottle from his arms and sat on the deck to drink, not knowing that the next danger came from under his feet. In the dark cabin, Mickey, who exuded the smell of barbecue, was struggling to fiddle with an instrument in front of him. In the glass chamber of the machine, a rat troll with a large amount of dimensional stones inlaid on his body was sleeping. I'm Mickey the Sawtail. How could I die at the hands of the damn pointy ears? The burning flames burned all the black fur on Mickey's body, revealing the charred skin. The bandage on his tail disappeared, revealing the old wound that kept oozing disgusting yellow pus. Feeling the constant itching on his skin, Mickey knew that this was a symptom of wound infection. In the cabin of the ratman full of bacteria, such a wound was enough to be fatal. Damn pointy ears. Let you taste the highest technological crystallization of the corruption clan, the dimensional rat troll. This was the latest product he bought from the corruption clan at a huge cost. He originally planned to use it as the finale trump card during the coastal looting, but he didn't expect it to be used at this time. As the lid of the glass warehouse was gradually opened, the rat troll inside slowly opened its eyes with green light. As the rat troll woke up, the strands of muscle stitched from the ogre on its body began to bulge rapidly, and the skin stitched by the dimensional stone gel was stretched at a very fast speed, and the whole body continued to expand under the electric light. The dimensional stone inserted into its body also began to emit a green light, and visible dimensional lightning began to surround it, making the whole body of the rat look particularly hideous and terrifying. Boom boom, the wooden deck, which was not very solid to begin with, was easily crushed. The rat troll staggered out of the glass chamber and looked at the stunned Mickey below with an expressionless face. Looking at this terrifying beast, Mickey was frightened and retreated a little at first, but then laughed wildly. Ha 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 ha, with such a big guy here, even that scary pointy ear can't resist it. Ha ha ha, what are you going to do? Mickey, who was laughing wildly, suddenly noticed that the rat troll's green eyes were staring at him. The look in his eyes, as if he saw delicious food, made Mickey shudder, so he hurriedly pressed the controller on the console. Zzzz. The magnetic disc installed in the rat troll's brain began to buzz, and the rat troll immediately let out bursts of painful wails. The strong shouting instantly alerted Rohan and the pirates on the deck. Rohan vigilantly gestured to the Black Ark pirates who were dealing with the battlefield debris nearby. The pirates understood and immediately left the surface of the ship, leaving the battlefield to Rohan and the unknown monsters below the deck. Dario on the Black Ark also heard the roar of the rat trolls and hurriedly turned around and ordered, "Push the ballista over, let the crossbowmen prepare their long-range weapons, and prepare to cover the adults." The soldiers immediately became busy and soon pushed 4 Reaper ballistas onto the rock deck, aiming the missiles at the Bretonnian warship where Rohan was. Since the elves' ballistas were all enchanted, these magical ballistas had weak tracking capabilities, so Rohan was not worried that he would be shot by his own ballistas. In this way, everyone stared at Rohan and the deck under his feet vigilantly. Rohan was also a little nervous. After all, this Bretonnian warship looked so shabby, and felt that it would break in half at any time. A green dimensional lightning penetrated from below the deck, scaring Rohan to release the magic shield hastily, but found that the power was just shooting everywhere. Soon, the dilapidated warship slowly sank, so Rohan took the rope thrown by a Black Ark pirate and returned to the Black Ark. Ding confirmed that Mickey, the leader of the Sawtail clan, is dead. Looking at the sea surface emitting green lightning, Rohan pouted and said indignantly, "Yes, I can confirm it too. So when will the boss of the final level come up?" Rohan just checked the system and found that there was only one hostile unit within 500 meters. That is the rat troll below. Only by getting rid of this guy can Rohan continue his interrupted journey through time. Dario came behind Rohan and asked in confusion, "Sir, you said before that we can't go to the other world when there are enemies nearby, so why don't we drive the Black Ark away from this battlefield now?" "No, when we travel through the world, we will become very vulnerable. If this guy catches up, who knows what will happen. We must deal with him first. That is a reward of random magic props from another world. If you are lucky enough, you can get something like a dragon egg or a staff, which are all incredible treasures." But Rohan certainly can't say this to his subordinates, so he pretended to be serious and said, "This is our first expedition to another world. We must be foolproof. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir." Dario and his subordinates who were fooled cast respectful eyes on Rohan. As expected of an lord, he always thinks more carefully than us. Gurgle huge bubbles suddenly appeared on the water surface, and the crossbowmen who were on guard instantly aimed their crossbows at the growing shadow. Plop. Shoot. The moment the black shadow rushed out of the water, the harvester crossbow and the black sharp crossbowman on the rock deck opened fire at the same time, shooting dense rain of arrows at the black shadow. Roar. The black shadow jumped onto the deck under the rain of arrows, and with a flash of cold light, it actually directly chopped the 2 harvester crossbows and the operators that were closer into pieces. After seeing the appearance of the newcomer, even Rohan couldn't help but widen his eyes and cursed, "What the hell is this monster?" The 6-meter height is enough to make any warrior who approaches him feel a strong sense of oppression. The right arm has been transformed into a sharp 2-meter long claw, and green electric light keeps jumping. The most important thing is that the opponent's chest and back are inlaid with a large number of dimensional stones, which are enough to withstand attacks from any angle. Rohan held the halberd in both hands and blocked the monster and the soldiers. He knew that he must show courage at this time to prevent the soldiers from retreating because of fear. But in his heart, Rohan cursed directly at the system. "Get out of here. You tell me this is a rat troll? Is this the iron-armored little treasure that emerged from that worldview? A mouse?" Ding, remind the host to use civilized language. This is the latest scientific research result from the corrupted clan, so it has not been included in the system atlas. This is not a question of whether it is an atlas or not. How to fight this thing? Give me a guide. Hello. Hello. Realizing that the system seemed unreliable, Rohan had to seek his other thigh, the Lady of the Mist. Lifting the ring to his lips, Rohan closed his eyes and gently kissed the inscription on the ring. In his heart, he kept praying to the goddess of the mist, praying that the goddess would come. "Rohan, boss. Are you there? Are you there? Are you there? A series of prayers were directly transmitted to heaven. Rajlia, who was sleeping a beauty sleep, was instantly awakened by the ringing of the bell beside her. She was so angry that she threw off the mask and prepared to see what was going on. A faint holy light passed through the dark clouds and shone on Rohan. Then, the consciousness of Lady Mist descended. Who is it? I don't know who I am, my believer. It seems that you need my help. Seeing that the person who called her was the handsome boy Rohan whom she had met before, Rajlia's suppressed anger instantly disappeared, and she quickly retracted the dirty words from her mouth. Rohan opened his eyes in confusion. He seemed to have heard something dirty just now. Could it be that the four gods of chaos have descended? P.S. Caught up. There is not a drop left. ORZ. Chapter 17 Curse of the Horned Rat. Is it Ms. Rajlia? The voice of old lady in his mind just now really scared Rohan, so he asked in his heart with some uncertainty. Rajlia obviously didn't want to explain too much about what happened just now. She just glanced at the mutant rat troll blocking Rohan and said in a disgusted tone, "What a blasphemy. My believer, I ask you to destroy it at all costs." Hearing Rajlia's request, Rohan couldn't help but smile bitterly, looked at the broken Reaper crossbow and the corpses of several soldiers under the feet of the mutant rat troll and said, "Dear lady, I think it's difficult for me to complete your request. This guy's too powerful. I ask for your help. It's not that I don't work hard, but I really can't do it." The double-edged claws on the arm of that thing are a circle larger than Rohan's entire body, not to mention that it is covered with green dimensional lightning. Rohan didn't dare to get close at all. Roar. The mutant rat troll seemed to have had enough of the brief silence on the battlefield. After a howl, it rushed over waving the sharp blade tied to its hand. Rohan's face changed drastically, and he hurriedly asked the black sharp crossbowman standing in the front row to withdraw, and then shouted to the fierce spearman not far away, "Shield wall. Fierce spearman, come up." Looking at this behemoth that was about to rush into the army, Rohan gritted his teeth. He still had to go to another world later, and there must not be too many casualties now. After thinking about it, Rohan couldn't wait for the fierce spearman who had not arrived yet, so he went up alone with a halberd in his hand, trying to stop this monster. Damn it. If I had known earlier, I would have raised a giant beast on the Black Ark. Even a manticore would be fine. For the sake of rigor, I just tested it in the game. Neither the rat troll nor the mutant rat troll can beat a team of dread spearmen. This wave of the novel is an epic enhancement. Rohan didn't know that his behavior at this time was as brave as Don Quixote charging at the windmill. All the warriors who witnessed this behavior showed shock and admiration in their eyes. Even Rajlia, who was about to eat melons, showed a strange color in her eyes. Obviously, she didn't expect Rohan to be so brave. The mutant rat troll looked at the villain in front of him who was rushing towards him with the toothpick, and a trace of disdain appeared in his crazy green eyes. Then he raised his right hand and chopped at Rohan with inertia. Roar. Die. Rohan grabbed the halberd with both hands and used all his strength to aim the halberd at the long claws of the mutant rat troll, trying to block this swing. In an instant, Rohan felt a huge force coming from the halberd and could only barely block the halberd in front of him and flew out with this huge force. My lord. Shoot. Dario's eyes widened as he saw Rohan fly out like a kite with a broken string. He angrily ordered the black crossbowman to shoot arrows at the mutant rat troll. Armor-piercing crossbow arrows flew out from the crossbows in an instant. The black crossbowman kept pulling the triggers, emptying the crossbow arrows in the receiver. The Reaper crossbows that had retreated to the rear also aimed their muzzles at the huge body of the mutant rat troll. There was almost no need to aim, and the giant arrows shot out could penetrate deeply into the body of the mutant rat troll. For a moment, the mutant rat troll's body was filled with thousands of crossbow arrows of different sizes. Even though it was transformed by the dimensional stone to weaken its sense of pain, it couldn't help but roar in pain. The fierce spearman took this opportunity to rush to the mutant rat troll, constantly stabbing its huge body with iron spears with barbs, and every time they pulled out, pieces of minced meat would be brought out. Rohan didn't know that Rajlia was not slacking off at this time. On the contrary, she was constantly suppressing the vortex in the sky with her divine power, and said angrily, "Damn longhorn stinky rat, you actually came down in person, how shameless." Chichichi. In the vortex, there were waves of strange and evil laughter that only Rajlia could hear. Along with the laughter, the vortex in the air began to slowly grow. At this time, Rohan had not yet noticed the arrival of danger and thought that the dimensional lightning in the sky was caused by the dimensional stone on the mutant rat troll. Rumble. As green lightning fell, the blue magic shield held up by Rohan shook violently, so loud that the mutant rat troll looked up curiously to see what happened. As the color of the magic shield gradually faded, Rohan could only barely squeeze out the last bit of magic power from his body, and at the same time, took out a small blue pill from his arms, and ate it, after hesitating for a moment. In just a moment, Rohan felt the magic power gradually recovering in his body, but it was followed by severe pain all over his body, which made Rohan couldn't help but roar, "Hiss, get up for me." The originally weak blue magic shield expanded like a blooming lotus petal, instantly blocking the exit of the entire vortex, preventing the raging dimensional lightning inside from continuing to spray out. Rajlia, who was fighting with the big horned rat, was overjoyed and immediately mobilized more divine power to shrink the vortex, suppressing it to leave only a small opening. "Little handsome boy, you did a great job. You really deserve it." Before he finished speaking, the originally shrunk vortex suddenly rioted, and then a green and black lightning shot out from it, directly piercing through Rohan's magic shield and hitting Rohan's chest. A warning. It has been detected that the host has suffered a soul level curse, and a replacement is being sought in space. Warning. No replacement has been found, and the curse has begun to be purified. Warning. The system is running low on energy and has failed to completely purify the curse and is beginning to extract the host's magic power. A series of system prompts entered Rohan's ears, but Rohan had no strength to deal with the system at this time. The unforgettable pain had already made Rohan lose his consciousness, and he fell to the ground twitching weakly. Rajlia was completely furious, and the entire vast ocean was instantly shrouded in thick fog. Even the distant coasts of Althuan and Britannia could see the fog covering the entire sea surface. Hehe. As if sensing Rajlia's anger, the green vortex closed instantly, leaving only a series of weird laughs to prove that what Dario and the others saw was not an illusion. HMPH. You're so fast. Rajlia, who had been so angry that she cursed continuously in just one day, retracted the holy light in her hand, looked at the mutant rat troll that was still making trouble on the Black Ark, and crushed it into powder with a flick of her hand. The soldiers who were still fighting just now suddenly saw a light beam falling from the sky, directly turning the mutant rat troll into ashes. Everyone was stunned for a moment. Gone. Dario was the first to react, and hurried to Rohan's side. Looking at Rohan lying on the ground with sweat on his forehead, he asked anxiously, "Can you hear me, sir?" In the system space, since the soul in the real world was severely damaged, the system thoughtfully summoned Rohan's spirit into the system space to temporarily avoid the limelight. After all, Rohan's body was already overwhelmed. First, he took a pill that forcibly extracted magic power, which caused the flesh cells to atrophy, and then he was attacked by the big horned rat and injured his soul. If Rohan goes back now, he will probably lose consciousness immediately due to the pain, and even his spiritual body cannot be maintained. Artifact mission, Durachi's Glory II completed. 12,000 gold has been automatically deposited into the small treasury and can be withdrawn at any time. Obtained item, Lucky Potion, 3/3. From the Harry Potter world, this potion can improve the drinker's luck. Although it cannot bless you to achieve your wishes, it can bring you good luck in all aspects. Single duration. One day, the moment Rohan finished reading the introduction, he asked in surprise, "Lucky Potion? Is it the one from the Harry Potter world?" Ding. The host's eye should not be damaged. Do you want to spend 1,000 gold to check it? Ghost. Through the small glass bottle, Rohan could see a little golden liquid in it, which was almost the amount of 3 small sips. Rohan looked at the lucky potion in his hand and fell into deep thought. After hesitating for a moment, he asked, "Is there any other way for me to obtain magical items from another world like this in the future?" Ding. The host only needs to travel through the world once to open the mall function. Oh, wow. Mall function, that's awesome. Then why didn't you tell me earlier? Exclamation mark. If he had known that he could open the mall by traveling through the world once, he might have risked traveling through the world decades ago. Why would he need to do this now? As if seeing Rohan's anger, the system's prompt tone also seemed a little aggrieved, but it still did its duty faithfully. Ding. The host has never asked about what functions the system can obtain after traveling through the world in the past 100 years, and has not even paid much attention to the system in the past 100 years. So, the fault is still mine. Rohan recalled carefully, and it seemed that he did not really study the other functions of the system. After all, the system had never spoken to him on its own initiative. And because Rohan was busy studying the library of the Lord Witch King, he only focused on improving his strength on the system panel, and did not pay much attention to other functions besides the system panel. Hiss, it seems that the fault is really mine. P.S. Hayek, meticulous about details, looking for data in the game. Loek, playing games under the pretext of looking for data. Kak. Chapter 18, refuse to wash your feet with water to prevent stomach fungal infection. Ding. Soul repair is complete. Please leave the system space. Just when Rohan was hesitating whether to apologize to the system's cold voice came, making Rohan almost think that the slightly aggrieved voice just now was an illusion. Before Rohan could reply, he felt dizzy and then temporarily lost consciousness. New features. Curse of the Horned Rat. My lord is awake. Why don't you go get some water? Go. Hearing the noises coming from his ears, Rohan felt his head buzzing, and he had to shout with all his strength, "Stop shouting. I'm still alive." As soon as he finished speaking, Rohan felt a sharp pain in his chest, and then he remembered that his ribs were broken because of the previous blow. Rohan subconsciously wanted to touch his chest, but he immediately regretted his stupid behavior, and shouted to Dario, "Senator? My ribs are broken. Help." Every Darachi will receive simple medical training after joining the army, so Rohan does not have to worry about his soldiers dying due to lack of treatment. But now Rohan can feel a phantom pain. Although he doesn't know whether it is the so-called curse of the Horned Rat or where his ribs are stuck, Rohan feels very bad. Several soldiers rushed up with suitcases, took off Rohan's damaged armor, and after stripping off Rohan's clothes, they were horrified to find that there was an inverted triangle on Rohan's chest that was emitting green light. That was the symbol of the Skaven. My lord? It doesn't matter. Connect my bones first. I will solve this mark myself later. After systematic treatment, Rohan no longer felt the pain that pierced his soul before. In addition to the soreness all over his body due to excessive extraction of magic power, there was only the pain in his chest and ribs. Letting the medic treat his wound, Rohan slowly raised his right hand to his lips and prayed to Rajlia, who had disappeared before. "Rohan, boss, are you there? Are you there? Are you there?" Rajlia, so noisy. Rajlia had not left. At this moment, she was venting her anger at the Radman fleet that had not yet retreated in the vast ocean. The shamelessness of the Horned Rat exceeded Rajlia's imagination. She had only been worshipped by the High Elves in the Iris region, but she had never expected that a god would come down to Earth in person just to help believers. The unfortunate Ratman pirates finally escaped from the Sea of Fire, and then they were horrified to find that huge waves were rising in front of them. The originally calm sea surface was stirred up by waves, and the clear sea water became turbid and black. Even some passing merchant ships were implicated and hurriedly left the vast ocean in fear. On the coastline of Britannia, some Holy Grail knights began to pray to the Lady of the Lake, hoping to calm the waves of the sea. Fortunately, the Ratman's warships were very fragile, and the surging waves that Rajlia summoned soon subsided. Only the thick fog and the wreckage of ships everywhere on the sea revealed Rajlia's anger. After putting her divine sense back on Rohan's black ark, Rajlia was surprised to find that the curse on Rohan had actually subsided, leaving only an imperceptible weak ability. It's incredible. It seems that my believer is not just a flower stand, but also has some little secrets that I don't know. Although she was very curious, Rajlia did not use her divine sense to ask Rohan. After all, the lady had to show her omniscience in front of her believers. Just when Rajlia was about to praise Rohan's bravery, a green light suddenly appeared in Rajlia's eyes. On the black ark, Rohan, who was healing, suddenly felt that the guidance ring in his hand that warmed his body was a little cold. Then, a somewhat unfamiliar female voice came from the sky. "My believer, your bravery is unforgettable. This is a reward for your brave battle. Lady of the Mist? No. This voice did not have the power to warm people's hearts. Rohan was a little confused. Rajlia was a god bound by the system and the main god of Rohan's faith. It stands to reason that Rajlia would not become so cold for no reason. Moreover, looking at the golden object floating in the air in front of him, Rohan's eyes twitched slightly, and he said with an indescribable feeling in his heart, I'm impressed. Madam, this thing is not filled with the foot-washing water of the little man of the goddess of the lake in the legend? That's right, the holy grail floating in front of Rohan is actually made of gold. Rohan used to worry whether the Rajlia he believed in was Lilith, so he specially asked the system, and the answer he got was, no. It was precisely because he knew that Rajlia was not Lilith that Rohan was willing to build the statue of Rajlia on the Black Ark. After all, in order to hide herself and her husband who came out of nowhere in the other world she discovered, Lilith completely exposed her green tea nature, that she would not mind the destruction of the world. That's why Rohan didn't want to have anything to do with Lilith. After all, if she knew about his ability to travel through the world, she might do something to him who was weak, pitiful, and helpless. But now, the Holy Grail in front of him made Rohan's heart sink. If Rajlia was also Lilith in disguise, would Lilith see him through the statue of Rajlia when he traveled through time? For a moment, Rohan glanced at the statue of Rajlia in the distance, wondering whether he should destroy the building that cost him thousands of gold coins to build before traveling through time. In the sky, the voice that sounded like Lilith was silent for a while. It was obvious that Rohan did not expect that Rohan would suddenly mock the Lady of the Lake and the rumors about her foot-washing water. After a while, he asked, why do you have such great hostility towards the Lady of the Lake? Nothing. I just heard a lot about her deceiving the poor knights of Britannia, and some stories she had to tell with some lost little boys after the rain. Rohan gave up resistance. If it was really Lilith, then he would not be able to resist with what he had now. He might as well start directly and start making dirty jokes. The medic who was treating Rohan's wounds and the soldiers around him laughed when they heard Rohan's sweet words. These soldiers without magic power did not see the Holy Grail floating in front of Rohan and thought that Rohan was joking with everyone, so they joined in. Almost every adult 50-year-old Druxy can tell a few jokes about the Lady of the Lake, such as the well-known boy after the rain and the Duke's Lake Fairy and so on. And those underage boys shyly opened their ears, trying to learn this new game that only adults understand from the mouths of their predecessors. Many talented people began to improvise, telling some rumors that would make Slanesh blush, making Rohan laugh out loud. After laughing, Rohan noticed that the Holy Grail in front of him was still there, so he suppressed his smile. After all, the owner was still there. Great. Before Rohan could finish his flattery, the Holy Grail in front of him suddenly disappeared in the air. After a long time, a holy light fell from the sky and shone towards Rohan. Murder to silence them? Rohan's face changed drastically. He didn't know whether the light was an enemy or a friend. He could only bear the pain and push the medic who was still laughing away, and then fell to the ground powerlessly. It is a blessing, not a curse. If it is a curse, it cannot be avoided. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame yourself for misjudging the person and letting the wolf into the house. The holy light instantly fell on Rohan. The medical soldier who was pushed away was frightened and hurried forward, thinking that it was another curse attack like the big horned rat before. However, Rohan, who was illuminated by the holy light, showed a comfortable expression on his face. Under the shocked eyes of the medical soldier beside him, the ribs on Rohan's chest that were originally bent instantly returned to their original position. My believer, your bravery is impressive. Tell me, what reward do you want, Rohan? Exclamation mark. Rajlia's voice came to his ears again, but this time the voice was particularly gentle. Not only did it heal Rohan's wounds, but even the originally cool drink became hot again. Rohan was completely confused. He didn't understand why Lilith repeated a sentence twice. My goddess, didn't you want to give me a holy grail with the water for washing the feet of the goddess of the lake? Why did you take it back? Holy grail? Rajlia was a little confused. She only remembered that she was distracted for a while and didn't know when she had the holy grail. Noticing Rajlia's silence, Rohan thought for a moment and decided to skip this topic first. he sincerely requested, "Madam, you have seen the situation just now. My troops are quite lacking in the ability to fight against large beasts and a large number of radmen. I ask you to bless my subordinates and let them become your mist walkers." Mist walkers are the names of warriors blessed by the Mist Lady. This title used to be exclusive to high elf warriors from the Iris region, but now Rohan asked Rajlia to give this honor to her warriors. Faced with Rohan's request, Rajlia hesitated. After all, Rohan and his soldiers are all Dirichi, and maybe one day they will go to war with her believers in Iris. At that time, both sides will be her believers, and it would be wrong to help anyone. It would be bad to be labeled as a partiality. Rohan also knew that Rajlia had some concerns, so he touched his chest and swore, "Madam, I promise you that, unless I'm attacked, I will never let the warriors blessed by you go to the battlefield to fight against your believers." Through her divine sense, Rajlia could feel Rohan's sincerity, so she agreed to Rohan's request and replied, "In this case, then I will agree to your request. I don't care whether you and your subordinates are arsonists, murderers, and looters, but you will never provoke internal strife among believers. Do you understand? Thank you, my lady. P.S. There is still 1 hour left. What a close call." Chapter 19. Dog Diary. The holy light had disappeared. Rohan touched his newly restored chest and breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, apart from a faint scathed mark, his ribs had also been repaired. Oh, and that damned horned rat. I wonder what his curse is? Rohan was furious when he thought about being cursed for no reason. He quickly opened the system panel to check. After a quick check, Rohan found that none of his attributes had any changes. Only in the last column of characteristics, a new green description appeared. Curse of the Horned Rat. The evil curse brought down by the notoriety of the Horned Rat has been reduced to the lowest level by the Mist Holy Light in the system, but it will still cause unknown negative effects on the host. Unknown negative effects? Rohan was a little wary of the word unknown in this entry. After all, this effect could be physical or mental. System, is there any way to completely eliminate this Curse of the Horned Rat? Ding. The feature has been bound. Please find a way to unbind it yourself. The cold words of the system came into his ears, making Rohan nervous. After all, the Horned Rat is a serious chaos god, and his curse is not ordinary. But Rohan did not continue to investigate for the time being, because Dario had already rushed over with the list. From his frown, Rohan had already vaguely sensed that something was wrong. Sure enough, after confirming that Rohan's injuries had been treated, Dario reported with a heavy face, "My lord, unfortunate news. In this siege, we lost the combat effectiveness of nearly 400 excellent soldiers, most of whom were burned, and are not suitable for going to the battlefield again in the short term. And we also lost 4 Reaper crossbows. I suggest cancelling the journey to the other world and returning to Grand Town to replenish troops and supplies." Hearing such a heavy loss, Rohan couldn't help but take a deep breath and fell into deep thought. Although he received 12,000 gold for completing the system task, Rohan's original goal was to go to another world, to open up a colony, not these petty profits. Not only slaves are needed, but also rare animals and unusual crafts in another world are what Rohan needs, and these are the big parts of the expedition. 12,000 gold, although it seems a lot, is just a drop in the bucket for Grand Town and Black Ark, which are in need of reconstruction. It can only be enough for Rohan to maintain the basic livelihood of the territory. Thinking of this, Rohan decided to continue the expedition to another world. Although this move would be risky, the rewards would be even more abundant. Let a team of dark swordsmen escort the wounded back to Grand Town. I remember that Black Ark has several speedboats, right? The speedboat Rohan mentioned is a kind of sailing longboat commonly used by Black Ark pirates. Due to its large carrying capacity and fast speed, it is often used for boarding battles and reconnaissance. Dario was a little surprised. Just as he was about to persuade Rohan, he met Rohan's firm eyes. After hesitating for a moment, he saluted Rohan and turned away. At this time, Rohan stood up from the floor. The phantom pain from his chest made him laugh at himself. Then he looked at the soldiers around him and shouted, "Soldiers, we have defeated the powerful enemy again. Not only did we successfully defeat the dirty rats, but the great lady of the mist also repelled the evil long-horned evil god. Victory belongs to us. The soldiers cheered. They all saw the green lightning that appeared and hit Rohan, and they also witnessed the holy light from the sky that healed Rohan. Therefore, they were full of expectations for the next expedition. Seeing that the soldiers' emotions were mobilized, Rohan shouted immediately, "The Lady of the Mist has given divine revelation. Tomorrow, we will select those warriors who are good enough to become the temple guards of the Lady of the Mist and receive blessings. Long live. Praise the Lady of the Mist. Praise the holy light. For the lady, Rohan." I seemed to hear the voice of the village girl just now. Ignoring the auditory hallucination just now, he now needs to return to his alchemy room and study carefully what methods can be used to enhance his own strength. Now Rohan's strength is very embarrassing. He can fight with anyone, but he can't beat anyone. Therefore, Rohan urgently needs to study a killer. The next day, Rohan came to the square with full energy. Nearly 1,000 warriors had gathered here. They all came here spontaneously and hoped that they could be selected. Every Durachi warrior is a proud warrior. They are confident that they are better than other comrades and can get the favor of the Mist Lady. Even the adjutant Dario came to the square, holding the silver leaf symbolizing the Mist Lady tightly in his hand. Since following Rohan, Dario has realized that his strength is really insufficient. Although Rohan appointed him as an adjutant, he still blamed himself for finding that he did not have much effect on the battlefield. Therefore, Dario planned to see if he could be favored by the Mist Lady and strive to become a Mist Walker. Seeing that everyone had arrived, Rohan led everyone to pray, asking Rajlia to come and give them strength. Soon, Rajlia's consciousness received the request from Rohan and others, but after looking at the people present, she only sent a holy light down on the statue. Looking at the statue emitting dazzling light, everyone knelt on one knee and swore their loyalty to the Lady of the Mist. Rohan also knelt on one knee. Although his body had been transformed by Rajlia and could use some magic, Rohan's appetite was not so high. According to his inquiry in the Nagaland library, from ancient times to the present, the Lady of the Mist, Rajlia, has never been chosen by God. Don't you see that the first generation of Azuran's chosen Phoenix King Inarion, after sacrificing himself to the Azuran temple, rushed out of the temple naked and slaughtered the demon army outside with his bare hands. Then, still naked, he rode on the strongest dragon of Ulthuan, in Dragonia, and killed an entire demon army. It is said that the Slanesh demon was killed on the spot before he even had time to take off his pants. Although the Lady of the Mist's divine power is not as good as Azuran, the Lord of Heaven, she should be able to fight with the Great Horndrad before it. Therefore, Rohan's goal this time is to see if he can become the first licker under the lady's seat, the chosen one. Lady, thank you again for blessing me and my warriors. Your holy light is like the bright moon in the sky. We wish to bathe in your holy light forever and follow the supreme, mysterious, and beautiful you. He spoke for several minutes, all boasting and praising. Not to mention the Durachi warriors, even Rajlia, who was sitting on the heaven, was shocked. Rohan could feel the stunned eyes of the warriors behind him looking at him. Even the thick skin he had cultivated for 100 years couldn't help but make his old face blush. There was no other way. In order to please the Lady of the Mist, he spent nearly a night thinking about how to lick the lady to make her happy. After all, in the distant Ivres, there is a temple far more magnificent than the temple on Rohan's Black Ark. The one who is close to the water gets the moon first. Who can guarantee that Rajlia will not choose the chosen one from the high elves of Ivres? Therefore, Rohan's strategy is, as long as I lick fast enough, other lickers will have no way to start. Secretly glancing at the holy light on the statue that did not respond, Rohan couldn't help swallowing his saliva and moistening his somewhat dry throat. Is the goddess dissatisfied with my words of praise? Rohan didn't know that Rajlia was not dissatisfied with Rohan's words of praise, but was too satisfied. She was so happy that she directly disconnected and covered her face with a silly smile. All along, the high elves of Ivres only regarded Rajlia as a patron saint. Although they also praised her, they were just some emotionless verbal language. And what Rohan said just now was a quote from the licking dog quotes compiled by those licking dog warriors who had been rejected countless times in their previous lives. Lady Misty is also a lady. She was so innocent that she had never been praised like this before. She was so shy that she disconnected from the statue. How could Rohan know that the dog licking quotes was so powerful? He thought that what he said just now had offended the lady, and he was so scared that he could hardly hold back his cold sweat. What should he do? If he had known, he would not have licked so hard. Now, it seems that he has licked the lady and made her angry. Just when Rohan was worried, the statue, which had been a little dim, suddenly emitted a dazzling light again, wrapping Rohan and the soldiers around him. Ding. The host has obtained a new feature, Mist Stalker. Ding. It has been detected that Dread Spearman right square bracket asterisk 2 has been blessed, unlocking a new unit, Silver Mist Guard. Ding. It has been detected that Dark Shadow has been blessed, unlocking a new unit, Silver Mist Hunter. A series of system prompts made Rohan stunned in place, and then he was ecstatic. When he was about to look up at the statue of the Lady of the Mist to thank her, he found that the holy light had begun to dissipate. Rohan stood up and looked at the audience curiously, and then he was surprised to see the changes in his warriors. The Dread Spearmen, who were originally wearing black iron armor, have been completely transformed, replaced by a silver-white mithril steel armor, and the shield and spear in their hands have disappeared, replaced by a majestic-looking silver halberd. The changes in the shadows are even greater. The original cyberpunk-style single ponytail has turned into a beautiful short silver-white hair, and the dirty and monotonous beast leather armor on the body has turned into a clean and elegant silver. The crossbow in his hand has become smaller, but the bowstring made of unknown gold wire, and the eagle head with magic on the top of the crossbow are not to be underestimated. P.S. The contract has been signed, by the way. Can only 60 chapters be put on the shelves? Then is it a big loss for me to have 3,000 words per chapter? Doge. Chapter 20 The Unknown World. Silver Mist Guard. Armor Strength. 90 Leadership. 90 Movement Speed. 35 Melee Attack. 40 Magic Attack, Melee Defense. 55 Weapon Power. 35 Armor Breaking, bonus against large units, charge bonus. 10 features, equipped with heavy armor breaking anti-large units resist charge, all charges, blessing of Rajlia, the Lady of the Mist gives a blessing, and a layer of mist will cover the body, with a 25% chance of avoiding all ranged damage. How to obtain? You can spend 4,000 gold to convert 2 teams of Dread Spearmen in the Mist Temple every month. Wow. Rohan looked at the panel of the Silver Mist Guard in surprise. Although the attributes of this panel are slightly inferior to those of the top halberd soldiers, such as the Phoenix Guard and the Chosen halberd, but the advantage is that the quantity is large and the supply is full. With only 2,000 gold coins, Rohan can convert a 100-man elite warrior on the Black Ark, and even save money on equipment. In fact, the Lizardman Temple Guards are also very powerful, and they have bronze shields, but I just finished testing, and found that their strength is ranked like this: Phoenix Guards, God's Chosen Halberd, Black Guards, Temple. Let's not talk about the Empire. Only the Empire knows how to use this embarrassing 2+2 thing. It can't beat Storm Rats, and doesn't deserve to be on the list. After looking at the Silver Mist Guards, Rohan turned his gaze to the Silver Mist Ranger, who was transformed from the shadow, wanting to see what kind of surprises this new soldier can bring him. Silver Mist Hunter, Armor Strength. 60 Leadership. 100 Movement Speed. 45 Melee Attack. 54 Melee Defense. 38 Weapon Power. 40 Magic Attack, bonus against infantry, ammunition capacity. 25 Troop Range. 140 Long Range Power. 27 Magic Projectiles, Armor Piercing Damage, Features, Holy Runes. Lady Mist hates those chaotic creatures. The Silver Mist Hunter's weapon will be attached with a faint divine power, and it is good at fighting evil creatures. Stealth Melee Expert Blessing of Rajlia. How to obtain? You can convert a team of shadows in the Temple of Mist by spending 2,000 gold every month, only once a month. Rohan felt a little regretful, but then this regret was replaced by ecstasy. By observing the system panel, Rohan can feel the strength of these Silver Mist warriors, and most importantly, as long as he has money, Rohan can burst out 3 teams of Silver Mist warriors every month. This is the benefit of the system's golden finger. You must know that in this world, whether it is the Phoenix Guard or the Chosen One, they all need to go through a long period of training to form combat effectiveness. And Rohan only needs to spend money to recruit these warriors blessed by the Lady of Mist without limit. Moreover, the Lady of Mist also gave Rohan a gift, which is the characteristic called Mistwalker. Mistwalker, the Lady of Mist is always watching you, and her eyes will often stay on you. Magic resistance plus 20%, ranged resistance plus 20%, special resistance plus 20%. Seeing this series of enhancements, Rohan couldn't help but bite his arm hard with his teeth, and he really felt that the toughness of his skin had improved to a higher level. Looking at the faint tooth marks on his arm, Rohan showed a satisfied smile at the corner of his mouth. Obviously, the blessing given to him by the Lady of the Mist was to help him avoid the curse of the horned rat. The people who received the blessing were rejoicing, while the warriors who did not receive the blessing looked at the blessed soldiers with envy. In the crowd, Dario looked at the silver leaf in his hand, and couldn't help saying, maybe it was because he was not pious enough. Looking at the soldiers with high morale, Rohan waved his arms, and shouted to the soldiers, my brothers, the Lady of the Mist has blessed our expedition. Perhaps our conquest of the other world will eventually fail, but not this time. Today, let us bathe in the holy light of the Lady, and move towards unknown wealth and danger together. Oh. After a speech, Rohan returned to the driver's seat, and began to prepare for the crossing. After a night of repairs, the Black Ark has been basically repaired. The rest will be decided when we arrive in the other world. System, start building the portal. Ding. The dimensional rift has been opened, and you can enter at any time. Almost at the same time, a lightning bolt fell from the sky, tearing a big hole in the air, and the surrounding sea surface surged again. The soldiers quickly returned to their respective posts. Since they had conducted a week-long exercise before, they all knew where their posts were. Ding. Start crossing. Streams of light appeared around the Black Ark, accompanied by purple space fluctuations. The Black Ark slowly drove towards the space crack on the sea surface, and entered the dimensional crack. New world. See, several human fishing boats are fishing. They cast fishing nets around the boats, and every time they pull in the nets, they can catch a lot of plump and fresh fish. On one of the small fishing boats, a boy is pulling in the fishing net with all his strength. Feeling the huge power coming from the net, he can't help but excitedly shout to another fisherman, "Father, I caught a big fish. Good job, boy. It seems we can have delicious fish soup tonight." The two of them lifted the fishing net together, and they were so happy when they saw the fish jumping in the net. Wow, after selling these fish, maybe we can buy Sally a new Macute box. Oh my god. Look, father. Just as the two were excited, the boy suddenly noticed a strange phenomenon in the sky in the distance, and then shouted in horror, "Huge waves. Don't be silly, kid, there haven't been any waves in this ocean for hundreds of years." Oh my god. Looking at the white line that was getting closer and closer, the fisherman was dumbfounded. Because the sea surface has always been calm, all the fishing boats are flat in shape and can't withstand such violent waves. The strangeness on the sea surface also attracted the attention of the residents on the shore. The guards wearing plate chain composite armor kept ringing the alarm bell, disturbing the tranquility of this town for hundreds of years. Run away. A tsunami. It's the legendary tsunami. It must be the angry sea monster. For a while, all kinds of rumors spread. People began to climb to high places frantically, and many evil-minded people covered their faces and broke into shops to smash and destroy. The town was in chaos, and the sea was in panic. Some captains of merchant ships from the ocean hurriedly lowered their sails and looked at the tens of meters high waves in panic. Oh my god, even the legendary sea monsters are not so powerful, and there have never been such waves in the ocean. The initiator of all this was also sailing hard in the sea. Because the dimensional rift tore a big hole in the sea, the surging sea water fell madly into the endless dimensional universe, and the waves of the other world also rushed towards this new world. The two powerful waves collided, and eventually formed a huge wave, so powerful that even the Black Ark felt a strong shock. Steady the Black Ark. Protect the magic matrix of the cabin. Rohan swallowed his saliva. Strictly speaking, this was his first time to travel through the world, and the last time he traveled to the Warhammer world was completely an accident. The most important thing is that Rohan has no sailing experience in the past 100 years. Although he had consulted some admirals earlier, that was decades ago. Fortunately, it didn't take long for the sea waters of the two worlds to reach a balance, and the world colonists successfully crossed the teleportation rift and entered the new world. My lord, there is absolutely no problem with our matrix, but some wooden buildings on the deck have been damaged. We may need to find a place to repair them. It seems we succeeded. Looking at the gradually calming ocean in front of him, Rohan excitedly came to the square and shouted to the soldiers who were still in shock from the previous storm, "We succeeded. We made history. This is a new world. Whether it is wealth, rare animals or slaves, take them all away." Great. Just as the soldiers in the audience began to cheer, an observer came to Rohan and reported, "My lord, I found a coastal town 12 nautical miles away. There are no protective measures on the coast. There are only some watchtowers and simple stone walls built along the coast. It should have just experienced a tsunami and did not discover us. Very good. It seems that the goddess of luck is on our side. Dario, you are responsible for mustering the army, and I will take the Silver Mist Hunter on a small boat to conduct reconnaissance. If you see me launching a flare, hurry up and let the troops land. If not, find a place to hide." Dario frowned slightly and wanted to dissuade him, but after months of getting along, he knew that it was difficult for Rohan to listen to advice. After he made up his mind, so he went down to prepare the speedboat. When he arrived at the castle, Rohan took off his iron armor. Since he was going to land for reconnaissance, Rohan chose to wear a set of sea dragon leather armor, a rapier, a crossbow and a flare. After Rohan changed his clothes and equipment, the waves on the sea finally subsided, so Rohan took the Silver Mist Hunters on the speedboat and left the Black Ark. Half an hour later, a faint mist rose outside the town, but the townspeople were busy dealing with the ruins and rescuing the wounded at this time, thinking it was a natural phenomenon after the tsunami, so they didn't care. On the hill near the town, Rohan was lurking with several Silver Mist Hunters, silently paying attention to every move in the town. He had arranged the original 100 Silver Mist Hunters to collect intelligence nearby, so Rohan took a few people to approach the town. Although this team has less than 10 people, each of them is a strong warrior who can fight 10 people at once, not to mention that Rohan and his men are holding armor-piercing crossbows. In the town, the city defense team is assisting the militia to suppress the gangsters and mercenaries who are taking advantage of the fire. Rohan can see that they are all wearing breastplate armor, and they look like people from the Sigma Empire. Moreover, Rohan did not see any muskets or cannons from beginning to end, only some single-shot hunting crossbows and short bows that made the Norscans shake their heads. The Silver Mist Hunters wanted to rush down to burn, kill and plunder immediately. After all, their predecessors were shadows. One of the team leaders came to Rohan and suggested, "Let us go. These guys can't even touch us. P.S. Thank you for the monthly tickets and rewards. Give the big brothers a whole life. Grass. Go. Ignore." Chapter 21. Plunder and Harvest. No. We must first see if this town is rich and if this place is a powerful country. Rohan looked at the chaotic town with caution. Although his army could easily plunder it, it would also expose the existence of the Black Ark. From the current intelligence, it can be seen that this country should be a system similar to Britannia, and its weapons and equipment are similar to those of the Sigma Empire. Rohan hesitated for a moment, and finally decided not to launch an attack, but to first determine the national lineup of this world and the differences in weapons and equipment. Notify the troops to return to the Black Ark. We will first change equipment, and then explore the nearby terrain. If we are lucky, we can catch a few more tongues. Yes, sir. Rohan and the Silver Mist Hunters jumped between the rocks in the mountains with light steps, and soon left the town, and returned to the Black Ark. On the Black Ark, Rohan took off his light sea dragon leather armor, and put on a set of human armor that he thought was quite inconvenient. He skillfully picked up a longbow, and said to Dario beside him, "Dario, go prepare the armor and weapons used by humans for the Silver Mist Hunters. This time I want to bring back the slaves first." The deck of the Black Ark needed to be repaired, but even the obedient Durachi warriors were unwilling to do such rough work, so Rohan could only capture slaves. In order not to expose the identity of the elves, Rohan ordered the Silver Mist Hunters to all change into the equipment of the Sigma Empire. As early as the Longbird War, the Dark Elves would plunder by disguising themselves as other races, so that they would not expose their identities, and could also provoke wars between races. The Longbird War was because the Witch King asked Tarachi to disguise himself as a Ser to plunder the dwarves, and the dwarves did not know that the elves were in civil strife, which eventually led to the war between the elves and the dwarves. Back on land again, Rohan led the army disguised as humans into the area near the town, and scouted the situation nearby. During the investigation, Rohan discovered that the environment in this area was quite superior, with soothing warm breezes and dense fruit trees. Like Ulthuan, it had a tropical climate suitable for elves to live in. Moreover, the rural areas in the countryside also stored a large amount of food. Poultry could be seen in every human farmer's home, and a delicious roast chicken sprinkled with salt would be a delicious dish. As for why Rohan knew this, run. An unknown army is looting. They are killing people. The militia has been killed by them. No. The whole village is surrounded. Everyone hide. More and more villagers began to flee in panic, but soon they found that the whole village was surrounded by a group of masked warriors in unknown armor. Rohan sat leisurely on a chair in a family's house. The Silver Mist Hunter next to him was processing the freshly grilled meat. Looking at the delicious barbecue on the plate, Rohan sighed. Although there is also a chicken farm on the Black Ark, it is true that other people's food tastes better. Sir, we have controlled this village and all the villagers have been arrested. A total of 547 people. Are they all brought back to the Black Ark? Rohan elegantly picked up a piece of chicken with chopsticks, feeling the fragrance in his mouth, and asked back, "You didn't kill innocent people indiscriminately? We need them to work. Are there any casualties among our own people? Except for the human soldiers who resisted, we didn't kill them indiscriminately. These humans are too weak. We didn't even have a single injured person." Captain Silver Mist was obviously full of disdain for the dead human militia. The fragile village defense and cowardly resistance made him feel no pleasure in killing. Although Kane's influence on the warriors has declined after believing in the Lady of the Mist, the habits developed over thousands of years still make them instinctively desire to kill. If it weren't for Rohan's high prestige among the soldiers, these proud warriors would have rushed forward and killed these villagers first. After eating the roast chicken, Rohan came to the village, looked at the villagers tied together with ropes, waved to the soldiers and said, "Load all the slaves and goods onto the ship. These supplies will allow us to plunder in this world for a longer time." Because it was a rural area, the Silver Mist Hunters did not find much money, but in the village chief's house, a sharp soldier found a box of gold coins and jewelry. But apart from that, even if the soldiers kept looking, the treasure they found was not enough for 1,000 gold. On the contrary, there were many livestock, not only nearly 100 cows, but also nearly 1,000 chickens, just because, and more than a dozen travel horses on the carriage. "Let's go, soldiers, transport these things back to the Black Ark. We can have a party tonight." Looking at the village burning in the fire, Rohan left the village with a full team. Today is a good day for harvest, a good day. It was not until several hours after Rohan and his team left that a passing caravan noticed the raised village and quickly notified the local troops. Albion Continent, Crowest Kingdom. Lion Lake City is the capital of Crowest Kingdom and the resident of the Royal Knights. In the palace of the kingdom, a painter is copying an uncle wearing golden armor, intending to create a painting that can be passed down to future generations. Due to maintaining the same posture for a long time, the old man in golden armor touched his waist uncomfortably. The painter hurriedly advised, "Your Majesty, please don't move. Your face will be painted soon." Okay, painter, how many days will it take to complete this painting?" "It will probably take a few days. Your upper body has been basically painted. Now we just need to work on the final details." "Okay." The king continued to maintain the same posture helplessly. At this moment, a man in exquisite plate armor walked into the palace and reported to the king with a serious face, "Your Majesty, unfortunate news has been heard from the town of Atlan. For some reason, a tsunami suddenly occurred in the Taping Sea, which severely damaged the port area of Atlan, and the citizens also rioted." Taping Sea? How could a tsunami happen? Do you need any support from us? The local lord requested us to provide material support and at the same time hope that we could send the knights to help suppress the riot. Hearing that the local lord actually requested to send troops, the king could not help shaking his head and laughed at the dissatisfied gaze of the painter. What? Has the local armed force become so weak that it can't even resist a group of unarmed citizens? My general, do you want to bring shame to the royal knights? Hearing the king's ridicule of the local lord, the general sighed, took out a list and said, not only the citizens rioted, your majesty, a village was also looted by unknown robbers. There was nothing at the scene except some militia corpses, and even the houses were all burned down. Is it that serious? How many villages are missing in total? About 800 villages are missing. Based on the wheel marks found nearby, we discovered that these carriages were abandoned in the mountains. The king's expression finally became serious. That's a whole village of villagers. And they were able to defeat the local defenders. It must be a group of bandits with thousands of people. If Rohan knew the news, he would nod with relief. He deliberately arranged for the soldiers to clear the traces of the carriages leading to the coast and abandon the carriages in the mountains to divert human attention. While the humans were busy dealing with the unfounded bandits in the mountains, Rohan had already returned to the Black Ark with slaves and supplies. Looking at the human slaves trembling under the whip and the supplies in dozens of carriages, all the Durachi cheered. Looking at the flags they had never seen in the seized items, and the unfamiliar accents of these slaves, all proved that this was indeed a new world. Rohan moved the box he had found in the village chief's room to the high platform in the square, and opened it in front of all the soldiers. The soldiers fell into a frenzy again, because it was full of gold coins with unknown patterns. Putting his hand into the box full of gold coins and grabbing it, watching the gold coin slip from his fingertips, Rohan's mouth also showed a smile. Druchi, be quiet. Looking at Rohan, who seemed to be ready to give a long speech on the stage, the soldiers below the stage immediately stopped, and every soldier stared at Rohan and the box at his feet. Looking at the cute little heads in the audience, Rohan smirked and ordered them to throw their weapons aside, then kicked the box hard. Before the soldiers could react, Rohan raised his right hand and shot a magic projectile, smashing the wooden box in the air. A large rain of gold coins fell towards the soldiers. After Rohan shouted, "Don't hit people," all the soldiers reacted and screamed wildly. "Whoever grabs it will own it. Get out of the way. It's mine." "Fuck." The adults said, "You can't hit people. Don't hit them in the face. Don't hit them in the face." For a while, all kinds of people who were busy robbing money, picking up money, and taking the opportunity to take revenge, took action, and then the chaotic cover began a big fight. Even some soldiers who were standing guard in the mistwalkers who pretended to be cool couldn't stand the loneliness, quietly took off their weapons and armor, and joined the chaotic crowd. Finally, even Rohan, who was sitting on the high platform watching the show, was pulled by some bold guy, and joined in with a helpless smile. The slaves hid in the corner in fear. They had judged from the exquisite and handsome faces, and pointed ears of the Durachi, that they should be the elves in the legendary stories. But aren't the elves in the stories loyal companions of the protagonists with small wings and gentle and kind? Are these creatures that are smashing and destroying really elves? The chaos quickly attracted Dario's attention. He looked at the damaged public facilities angrily, and was about to lead his troops to suppress them, when he saw Rohan in the crowd, laughing and throwing a few Durachi around him for fun. A certain adjutant in charge of handling official business. Looking at the smile on the face of his own hands-off shopkeeper, Dario was silent for a moment, looked at the eagerness in the eyes of the soldiers around him, sighed and left. He was going to find a quiet place, to have a good rest, and then come to clean up the damaged facilities, when his headache was gone. P.S. Give the child some recommendation tickets, and buy Rohan a girl later. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22, Licking Ms. Missed his big white legs. After the carnival, every Durachi showed a happy expression on his face. Although there were not many gold coins in the box, it was enough for each elf present to have a gold coin and a few silver coins. Ding. You successfully held a spoils division. The soldiers are very happy. Get 15 days of characteristics. Leadership of the whole army +5. Rohan, who was resting, was a little surprised. He didn't expect that this impromptu carnival he had planned would have an unexpected effect. So he asked, "System, in addition to dividing the spoils like this, are there other ways to obtain this temporary characteristic?" Ding. Temporary characteristics are randomly triggered. They can be obtained by holding ceremonies, holding parties and performing sacrifices every month. The duration depends on the effect. Looking at the deck buildings destroyed in the chaos, Rohan touched his chin. Should he hold more such carnivals in the future to let the soldiers relax? Dario, RQIU. The night fell quickly. Under Dario's arrangement, the slaves quickly repaired the damaged buildings and were then driven to serve other Durachi who needed it. In the square, Rohan prepared a party to celebrate their first successful crossing of the other world. Carefully cooked food and elegant music were presented. Except for the soldiers on guard and the slave owners who were driving the slaves to work, everyone participated. Rohan tasted the different foods and drinks in the other world with satisfaction. If this unusual taste could be sold to Nagaland, it would definitely sell for a lot of money. After 3 rounds of drinking, some slightly drunk soldiers began to touch the female humans among the slaves, as if to vent their animal desires. Rohan had no intention of stopping them. The physique of elves was far superior to that of humans. Unless the power of Slanesh affected him, he would not worry at all that his soldiers would be addicted to the so-called wine, sex, and horses. However, the expected joyful party did not happen. The soldiers who were infatuated were sobered up when they saw the faces of the village girls. Although many Durachi were very open in this regard due to the influence of the joy cult, it was obvious that both men and women in Durachi hoped that their partners should be handsome men and beautiful women. As for the village girl whose skin was rough from working in the fields for many years, even the most thirsty Durachi soldiers would hesitate. I realized I was a little dissing Joan of Arc when I wrote this. Dario also came to the table, first poured himself a glass of wine, and took a sip, then reported to Rohan helplessly, "Sir, there is good news and bad news. The good news is that after a period of research, we found that their language is 80% similar to that of the Sigma Empire, so we can communicate." Rohan forked a piece of beef and bit it. Although the meat of these oxen didn't taste good due to long hours of work, it was still a rare delicacy after sailing on the ocean for several weeks. After hearing Dario's report, Rohan raised his eyebrows and asked, "This is indeed good news. At least it is convenient for us to manage these slaves. What about the bad news?" "The bad news is that through interrogation, we learned from the mayor that this world is quite small. Except for this continent called Albion, the whole world is ocean." Rohan picked up the juice, looked at the red juice squeezed from grapes, and murmured, "These are too good news. Our troops are limited. If this world is really as big as Ulthuan as you said, then we can easily establish a colony. The most important thing now is to figure out what kind of world this world is." As for Albion and the Kingdom of Croist, he had never heard of them. Now he must find intelligence that can help him distinguish the plot. Go and ask if there are any wonderful things in this world, such as whether there are any things like scorpion tail beasts, trolls, or dwarves. "Yes, sir." Although Dario didn't quite understand what Rohan meant by wonderful, he roughly understood that what Rohan needed was the legendary stories of this world. Looking at Dario who was leaving, Rohan looked at the statue of Lady of the Mist. Since he came to this world, he had lost contact with Lady of the Mist. Is it because he is not in her signal area? As Rohan's biggest thigh, Lady of the Mist's loss of contact made Rohan a little worried. After all, he didn't know whether this world was a high magic world. In case there were gods from another world on this continent, then Rohan could only rely on the power of Lady of the Mist. It's still too weak. Rohan stuffed the steak into his mouth. He himself did not have much ambition. For him, learning more knowledge, mastering more magic, and going to other worlds for adventures were what he wanted to do. Unfortunately, traveling to another world for adventures is inherently dangerous, so Rohan could only settle for the second best. With the help of the Witch King, he gathered the army and took risks while plundering other worlds. Rohan shook his head, threw all those miscellaneous thoughts behind him, left the celebration banquet, entered the Temple of the Mist alone, knelt in front of the goddess, and began to pray. Before getting a response from Lady of the Mist, Rohan did not intend to expose the existence of the Black Ark. A small-scale looting would be enough. Taking out the silver leaf pendant of the Mistwalker from his collar, Rohan held it with both hands devoutly and kept repeating Lady of the Mist's real name in his heart. Rohan, boss, are you there? Just call me if you receive it. Statue. Rohan was not in a hurry. After all, this was the distance across 2 worlds. After all, he himself relied on the dimensional cracks of the system to cross, and Rajlia needed to rely on her own strength. After kneeling on one knee on a soft couch, Rohan closed his eyes. After calling in his heart for an unknown period of time, he slowly fell asleep because he was too full. Rohan, Warhammer World, Heaven and Lady of the Mist's Palace. Rajlia was frantically urging her divine power. She had received Rohan's PHS, but was shocked and angry to find that the believers she had just accepted recently were gone. Just now, she covered the entire vast ocean with her divine sense, but still couldn't find Rohan's Black Ark. She even risked being found by Cain and went to Nagaroth, but found nothing. It must be the despicable horned rat. It attacked my believers when I wasn't paying attention. Recalling that Rohan had been cursed by the horned rat, Rajlia's beautiful face under the veil became a little distorted because of anger. For a long time, due to Azuraan's curse on the High Elves Phoenix King, most other elven gods were unwilling to give too much help to the High Elves. This also led to the elven gods preferring wood elves and dark elves, but there were also some elven gods who secretly protected poor Asur, including the Lady of the Mist. Because she was worried about being blamed by Azuraan, Rajlia had been carefully helping her believers, but the actions of the horned rat taught her a lesson. It turns out that gods can directly intervene in the world and help their believers. Rohan's prayer came again, and Rajlia finally calmed down and listened carefully to the content of Rohan's prayer. The more she listened, the more wonderful Rajlia's almond eyes and eyebrows became. Finally, she couldn't help but exclaimed, "A new world. A real new world." Like Rohan, who was interested in the resources of the new world, Rajlia quickly judged the value of that small world to him from the information sent by Rohan. A new world means a large number of new believers, more power of faith, and possible unknown gods. Rajlia's eyes, as smart as a deer, flashed a trace of brightness in an instant, and began to think about the benefits that the new world could bring. There are also levels between gods. Gods with more believers can master more divine power, thereby improving their status. For example, Azuraan, the Lord of Heaven, is a god with the highest status in heaven, because all the elves believe in him. And her wife, the moon goddess Lilith, has a divine power far beyond her, because she has been believed in by different races for a long time. The setting book says that seeing Lilith can make people think of innocence, forgiveness, and kindness, but Rohan combined the green tea operation in it with her new lover. I have reservations about this. Although Rajlia is not used to Lilith and always feels that she is plotting something, it is undeniable that Rajlia also envies Lilith's majestic power. Maybe I can collect the power of faith from humans in another world. Forget it, let's go find my cute little believer first. Feeling the pious prayer from Rohan, Rajlia smiled slightly and began to look for Rohan's new world in the direction of Rohan's power of faith. It is easy for a god like Rajlia to open up a channel to a new world, but the channel opened randomly is like a blind box, and you can never know the situation of another world. And now, with Rohan's guidance, Rajlia can easily find the location of that new world. Lilith searched for thousands of years before she found a barely habitable world and was finally stabbed in the back by Manbaldhead. Rajlia, new world. I'll do it. New world, Black Ark. The next morning, Rohan woke up from his sleep with drooling eyes, looked at the glittering silver leaf in his hand, and couldn't help laughing. Wow. The PHS is connected. The lady will be here soon. Rohan was ecstatic when he got a response from Rajlia. The thickest thigh has been connected, so there is no need to worry about any gods from another world. Last night, Dario came in to wake Rohan up and told him a piece of news. My lord, these humans believe in a false god called God. We should smash their churches and spread the glory of the lady. P.S. Thank you for your monthly tickets and recommendation tickets, and GT, and LT, / Chapter 23. The new world turns out to be Rohan remained in a kneeling position, and his elf body allowed him to maintain this position for a whole night without feeling tired. Hearing Dario say that he wanted to destroy the Church of God, Rohan smiled and whispered to the statue of Lady of the Mist, "Yes, all false gods must be eliminated. The premise is to first figure out what the relationship is between the noble Lady of the Mist and the Moonlight Little Man. Since he was almost tricked by Lilith to drink foot-washing water last time, Rohan discovered that there seemed to be something strange about Lady of the Mist. The system has always determined that his temple is bound to Lady of the Mist Ladria, so why did Lilith appear at that time and tried to disguise herself as Lady of the Mist to deceive herself? Moreover, Lady of the Mist was obviously unaware of Lilith's appearance. In this regard, Rohan guessed two possibilities. Lady of the Mist is another trumpet opened by Lilith, but according to the system binding, his temple should be the Moonlight Temple instead of the Mist Temple. And the other possibility, damn it, this little man dared to follow or possess a noble lady? Exclamation mark. Although Rohan was not sure whether the relationship between Lilith and Rajlia was really good enough to bless each other's believers, Rohan could confirm one thing. Lilith must have deceived him into accepting blessings before. After all, Rohan still had some self-knowledge. After all, he was a high-level believer who had received gifts from the Lady of the Mist. He was a hot commodity among the gods. And based on Rohan's understanding of Lilith's green tea nature, she was completely capable of pretending to be a weaker god than herself, and then coaxing other believers to drink her foot-washing water. If Rohan had not been on guard against the Holy Grail last time, he might have drunk the foot-washing water. He didn't want to get a fungal infection in his stomach because of drinking the foot-washing water. Rohan obediently knelt on one knee in the temple. Although he had never been a licking dog in his previous life, he had seen pigs run, even if he had never eaten pork. What's more, there are many sorceresses in Naga and Hulik the Witch King. As the chief of the guards, Rohan has naturally learned a few tricks. The Lady of the Mist is about to come, and the first impression is very important. The process may not be very good, but when the work is over, you must show that you are working hard, so that the lady will feel that you are praying with your heart. So Rohan began to perform, first panting slightly and looking tired, then poking the knee tendon with his fingers until the knee jerk reflex was triggered and then shrank. The shaky look is very much like a devout believer who has been kneeling for a long time. Rohan clasped his hands together with satisfaction and continued to pray to the holy statue. Rohan, who was pretending, had no idea that the Lady of the Mist had actually come a long time ago and was watching Rohan's tricks with interest through the holy statue. Watching Rohan complete his disguise step by step, Rajlia was not angry, but watched Rohan's performance with a smile. This little guy, don't learn your lesson. Rajlia, who was born for thousands of years, is not as simple as she looks. In the Temple of Iris, there are many high elves who want to gain her kindness through acting. Rohan's acting skills can only fool mortals. Rajlia's consciousness is hidden in the statue. As a person who likes to have fun, she is curious to see how long Rohan can keep up such a performance. In this way, Rohan knelt for several hours without knowing anything. Rohan wondered in his heart, is the lady lost? Why hasn't she arrived yet? He didn't know that being stood up is a daily routine for believers. However, this game was soon interrupted by Dario, who entered the temple. Dario looked at Rohan with admiration, who looked tired, and exclaimed, "You are so pious, no wonder you can get the lady's mercy." Rohan and Rajlia rolled their eyes at the same time. Pious? After so long, Rohan also guessed that the lady had come and was watching his joke, so the pious prayer in his head had long been replaced by other things. What should we eat tonight? Long live the lady. What does the Lady of the Mist look like under her veil? Long live the lady. Oh, I'm reminded of Lilith's story after the rain. 5,000 words omitted. Don't worry, there's no group. Long live the lady. A series of miscellaneous prayers were heard by Rajlia. Since Rohan was the only one praying in this world, Rajlia could accurately receive Rohan's prayers. Could such a filthy prayer come from the thoughts of a pious person? Exclamation mark. Rohan looked at the list in Dario's hand and smiled. You are becoming more and more like a civilian now. No way. After all, I don't have as strong strength as you, sir. When I was in Grand Town before, I was good at this. Dario sighed. As a Dorichi, He naturally hoped to follow Rohan and conquer this unknown world together. He was too weak. Although his strength was not bad compared to other warriors, he was not outstanding compared to other mistwalkers. Rohan was silent. He knew some ways to improve his strength, but none of them were suitable for Dario. Perhaps he could consider mechanical ascension? After noting down this idea, Rohan asked Dario, who was a little disappointed, "I will find a way to improve your strength. What do you want to talk to me about?" By the way, regarding what you said before, the slave owners and I tortured several servants and got some information about the so-called fantasy creatures in this world. Really? What are they? Dario looked at the list in his hand and said with some distress, "Since the captured slaves are mostly farmers and village girls, they can't provide any useful information. We only know some legendary things. For example, there are rumors that there is a sea monster in the sea that often attacks passing ships. It may look like an octopus. There is also a creature called gargoyle similar to a harpy sitting in the false god church." Rohan's eyes twitched slightly. The information was too mixed. He couldn't tell which world this was. Dario also saw Rohan's headache, so he skipped the information that was clearly legendary and said, "Putting aside those obviously made up legends, there is an interesting fairy tale that happened in history. Are you interested in listening to it? Go ahead, just take it as a way to pass the time." Rohan stood up and walked to a chair next to the statue and sat down. Rajlia was also a little curious, and a divine consciousness descended from the statue to listen to the story. Dario cleared his throat, took out a pamphlet he had snatched from a slave child, and read out, "In order to avoid wasting time being accused of writing too many words, I will briefly summarize the story. A group of pagan monks delusionally wanted to find their false god, so they used magic to create several magic beans that could grow vines that kept growing taller. As a result, they did not find their false god, but instead encountered an empty island." "An empty island? Do you mean an island that can float in the air?" Rohan touched his chin. This plot sounded vaguely familiar to him, but 100 years had made him forget too many things. He could only say helplessly, "Go on, I feel like I can remember something." "Okay, then there were a lot of giants on that island. The giants followed the vines to the ground, robbed a lot of treasures, and ate many people at the same time, and the weak humans here had no power to fight back. So this first king of the kingdom called Croist, a human named Eric, dug out the heart of a giant's corpse, used some dirty pagan magic, and created a crown that could control the giant." Before Dario finished speaking, Rohan took over the conversation and said, "What happens next?" "The king ordered the giants to return to Sky Island, cut off the vines, and took the crown that could control the giants and the seeds that could go to Sky Island into the grave." "My lord, have you heard of this story?" Dario was a little surprised to hear Rohan actually tell the sequel of the story. But when he thought of Rohan's ability to travel through various alien worlds, Dario felt that it was nothing. Rohan touched his chin and laughed softly. "I roughly know what world we have traveled to. If what you said is true, then we will face a huge threat." "Are they giants? So those giants and the false gods that humans believe in really exist?" When Dario heard that false gods might really exist, he couldn't help but feel a little nervous. He was smart and immediately understood that if there were really gods in this world, they would definitely not welcome these alien colonists. "I don't know if that false god called God exists, but if I remember correctly, that Sky Island is called Gangcha, and there are indeed many giants there, at least hundreds of them, right?" "Hundreds?" Dario's eyes lit up instantly when he heard this number. In the Warhammer world, giants also exist. Those big guys with skin as hard as rocks will rush into the queue waving huge wooden sticks, and every time they swing their weapons, dozens of people will be knocked away. However, the heads of giants are probably the excellent trophies that the Durachi warriors dream of. With the help of the Reaper Ballista and the Black Crossbow, the warriors can easily kill a single giant. In actual tests, the Dread Spearman cannot beat the giants one-on-one, but has a slight advantage in two-on-one, and the effect is better with auxiliary troops. As if seeing Dario's inner eagerness to try, Rohan added with some concern, "These giants are not as stupid as those in the Badlands. They can forge weapons and armor, and know how to use tactics. The most important thing is that they are even bigger and more flexible than those in our world, so they should never be underestimated. But then Rohan gave up persuading him. Because not only Dario's eyes lit up when he heard it, but even the Darachi who passed by the temple became excited, wishing they could cut off the giant's head with their own hands and bring it back to Nagaran to show off to their fellow tribesmen. P.S. The plot of the first world has begun. Did you guess which world it is? Chapter 24 Formal Contact. Looking at the warriors with shining eyes, Rohan felt a toothache. If he guessed correctly, this world should be a fairy tale world. What does it seem to be called? Giant Catcher. The general plot seems to be a bloody story about a human farmer who fights and adventures with giants and finally marries a princess and becomes king. If it were in his previous life, Rohan might think this is a good fairy tale, but after witnessing more than 100 years of Darachi palace fighting, Rohan sneered at this little story. This is just like the old farmer in Britannia turning over the throne through playing landlords, which is too ridiculous. Although Rohan can't remember the details of the movie because of the long time, Rohan absolutely does not believe that there will be a human king in reality who is willing to marry the princess to an old farmer with low blood. In the Warhammer world, these old farmers don't even have the qualifications to believe in the goddess of the lake. If they can see a living saint once in their lifetime, their ancestors' graves will be filled with smoke for 8 generations. However, putting aside the bloody plot, there are still things worth Rohan's search in this world. First, there is the black magic of those monks. Although combined with the legend, the killing power of this black magic may not be outstanding. But being able to create magic vines that can reach 10,000 meters high, its effect has surpassed all the life mages known to Rohan. Secondly, there are the wealth looted by the giants to the Sky Island. Rohan clearly remembers that in the movie, those golden treasures filled an entire giant warehouse. Think about it, that is the giant's warehouse. A room of more than 1,000 square meters is full of wealth, even enough to fill the entire interior of the Black Ark. Finally, there is the crown that can control the giants. Unlike the clumsy giants in the Badlands, the Gangsha giants here are more flexible and intelligent. If he can use them, they will be powerful war machines. Thinking of this, Rohan's eyes also shone with brilliance, and he said to the soldiers who had surrounded him at some point, "I have a plan. Yes, prepare all the high elves armor in the warehouse." A few days later, Troist Kingdom, Seaport City, port of Ser, densely packed merchant ships crowded in the port. This largest port in the kingdom of Troist receives goods from the whole world every day. As the most powerful country in the Albion continent, the kingdom of Troist also has the largest navy. Nearly 1,000 large and small ships of various types are spread across the Pacific Sea. 50,000 excellent naval sailors make this fleet hard to beat on the sea. On the sentry tower, several sentinels were playing cards leisurely. The long period of peaceful life had long made them forget their vigilance. "Oh, it looks like I'm going to win. Come on, give me the money." A soldier excitedly played all the cards in his hand and then smiled at the other 2 soldiers. "Hurry up, don't waste time. It's 5 copper coins per hand. I think I can spend the night with the lovely ladies tonight. Don't be too happy too soon. Be careful or I'll tell the inspection team that you left your post to find a lady." Another soldier threw down the cards unwillingly and wanted to cheat, but the winning soldier didn't care and said, "My dear man, do you remember when we first arrived in this city? We were both very young at the time, and we met Anna and Lucy at a street corner. Maybe they were called Becky or Jenny. We fell in love with each other at first sight, and then went to the grove together, making the inevitable mistakes of young people. But after realizing that we were very sorry for their husbands, we both left 10 copper coins and ended this short relationship. Don't forget, we have fallen in love at first sight at least hundreds of times in the past few years. Do you want to interpret our love at first sight for them as finding a lady? This is obviously inappropriate, right?" However, his witty remarks obviously did not achieve the desired effect. His 2 companions stood up and stared at him, which frightened the soldier who won the money. Were his comrades going to attack him for a day's wages? Exclamation mark. Guys, I was just joking. I don't want this money. Damn it, go and ring the alarm bell, quick, quick. The 2 soldiers ignored him, but picked up a big wooden hammer and hit a big bell next to them. Dong dong dong. Seeing this, the soldier who won the money immediately reacted and hurriedly put on the weapons and armor that were originally placed on the table and then looked out of the watchtower. Oh, God. On the sea in the distance, a terrifying shadow was heading towards the port. From a distance, it looked like an island floating on the sea. The soldier's eyes widened, and even the weapon in his hand fell to the ground, muttering, "What is this? Is it a warship?" Little knowledge. Once a giant black ark stole an ancient holy stone tablet. A slan demon priest cast a spell in anger and directly dragged the black ark that had already run to another ocean to the coast of Lystria, turning the naval battle into a siege. On the black ark, all the dark elf warriors put on the exquisite armor of the high elves, and the mist walkers were arranged in the cabin by Rohan as a trump card to prevent being discovered. Rohan also changed into a set of phoenix armor of the high elf prince. His appearance, which was comparable to that of the Prince of Slaanesh, looked majestic against the gorgeous armor. Looking at his soldiers who looked like models, Rohan couldn't help but praise them. I have to say, after putting on this outfit, the boys look much more friendly. Excuse me, I don't understand, sir. Why do you have to go through so much trouble? We can just storm into this city and plunder all the wealth inside. Behind Rohan, Dario looked at the white lion robe on his body a little awkwardly and asked in confusion. In his opinion, Assur's gorgeous armor was like a clown costume with chicken feathers. The decorations like phoenix feathers were useless on the battlefield. It would be better to install a few more barbs that could kill the enemy in close combat. Although the gorgeous white lion leather coat was tough, it was too expensive. The price of buying one could buy 3 sets of sea dragon leather armor. My lovely adjutant, you know, first impressions are very important. I don't want our first official meeting with the humans of this world to be full of blood. Rohan smoothed the messy lion hair on Dario's shoulders and explained, although we are elite, we are too few in number. Although a temporary siege can bring considerable benefits, it will make us enemies of all humans in this world. Drachi is never afraid of sacrifice. Yes, but I don't want to see unnecessary sacrifices. You all remember, I want this world, so show your acting skills. Leaving Dario who was lost in thought, Rohan turned his gaze to the faces of the soldiers. Looking at their stiff smiles, Rohan shouted dissatisfiedly, pretend to be natural. Show your handsome side. Remember, be gentle and smile. Hearing Rohan's order, the soldiers secretly grinned. Although they didn't understand why, they still tried to squeeze a smile on their faces. Seeing this, Rohan nodded with satisfaction. The goal this time was to collect intelligence and pretend to be friendly. As for the Sky Island and the Giant's Crown, don't worry, you can't run away anyway. What you need to do now is to make sure whether the plot has started and how strong the military power of this human kingdom is. According to previous observations in Atlanport, the single combat power of humans here is far weaker than that of elves, and even worse than that of humans in the Warhammer world. You must know that no matter how weak the humans in the medieval Warhammer world are, they are at least created by the old saints, and the strength of their souls and bodies is far superior to the mortals who evolved from apes in this world. What's more, there is a precedent of Sigmar's physical sanctification, and various human gods are still protecting this young race. What can the mortals who believe in false gods in this world compare with? Is it the long-lost black magic, or the mortal army that has difficulty even dealing with clan rats? But after all, Rohan's expeditionary force is too small, and being able to take over this world with the lowest loss is Rohan's real goal. The Black Ark pirate on the observation tower used ropes to flexibly lower himself to the deck, and reported to Rohan, the short-lived species boat has arrived. It's probably for reconnaissance. Do you want to kill them? Calm down. We are here with good intentions. Yes, just as planned, we are an exploration ship. Hearing Rohan say this, the young warrior had to return to his work with a strange look on his face. After waiting for 10 minutes, the human boat slowly came to the vicinity of the Black Ark. The sailors looked at the several kilometer-long Black Ark in horror, and trembled and shouted, "Oh my god. The rocks are floating on the water. This is definitely a miracle. Look at those beautiful creatures above. Are they angels? It's elves. It's the elves that can bring good luck in the legend. Look at their weapons and armor. I dare say that even the members of the Royal Knights don't have as exquisite costumes as them. All kinds of noises gave the leading diplomat a headache, but at this time he couldn't care about it, because he was also immersed in the handsome appearance of the elves. After an unknown amount of time, the diplomat came back to his senses and said with emotion, "Oh my god, I have been a diplomat for decades and have met countless countries, but this is the first time I have communicated with other races." Then the diplomat ordered the crew members who were still obsessed, slowly move the boat over and don't do anything rude. We represent all mankind and don't let these beautiful creatures think we are rude. These poor mortals did not see that the sacred creatures they called angels were standing high up at this time, looking at them with eyes that were desperately suppressing the madness of killing and blood. P.S. A small question. Do you prefer to see killing or conspiracy? Backquote. Chapter 25 Colony. Repair. Just when the human boat was about to touch the Black Ark, a sharp arrow suddenly shot down from the top of the Black Ark and pierced directly into the wooden deck of the boat. Be careful. There is an attack. The human sailors were so scared that they hurriedly hid in the cabin. The diplomat was also startled. Just when he was hesitating whether to hide, a pleasant and magnetic male voice came from the Black Ark. "Human, who allowed you to step on my ship without my consent?" The diplomat looked up in surprise. Although the other party's language was slightly different from the official language of the Albion continent, it was also well spoken. Then, the diplomat's eyes widened, and he stood there, staring blankly at the hazy figure, shrouded in a thin silver mist. The gorgeous golden armor covered the other party's tall body. Under the phoenix helmet, on the demon-like handsome face, a pair of bright eyes like sapphires penetrated the mist and looked at him silently. I hope the readers can find the sense of substitution. After waiting for a few minutes, seeing that the other party was still staring at him blankly, Rohan directly pulled out the second arrow, put on the elven longbow, and aimed at the diplomat. "Put away your dirty eyes, human, you are too offensive." Although he said that he would be kind, Rohan would not give the initiative of negotiation to humans. What could be more passive than diplomatic impoliteness? The diplomat came to his senses and realized that his behavior just now was too rude, so he hurriedly explained, "Please forgive me, respected sir. Your beauty is as dazzling as the stars in the sky, and your eyes are like gems. Take back your flattery. If it were normal times, I would be very happy to hear these, but I will remember your rudeness in my heart." Rohan took the opportunity to stop and handed the longbow to Dario next to him and continued, "We are explorers of the world, high elves from the eternal land. Now, explain your purpose." Short-lived. The slightly humiliating title can better convey Rohan's anger. As long as he did a little trick, this poor mortal would have to follow Rohan's rhythm. "Dear elf, I came here to understand your purpose. After all, your ship is so huge that it has brought panic to our people." After expressing the anger, it is time to convey goodwill. Rohan slowed down his tone and said apologetically, "If that's the case, I'm sorry, because my ship encountered a strange storm at sea and had to find a place to rest." The diplomat looked at the deck of the Black Ark. From the outside, he could indeed see traces of damage caused by huge waves. Looking at the diplomat who had completely believed his words, Rohan's mouth corners slightly raised. A real lie is to use 90% of the truth to cover up the 10% of lies that are fatal. The world colonizer did suffer a storm, and the outer deck was not repaired due to lack of materials. The cabin also needed supplies, because the cabin of the Black Ark would never be filled with food. And the soldiers haven't been on land for several months. Although the Black Ark is very stable on the sea, they obviously hope to be down to earth. The diplomat who thought he had figured out the elves' intentions thought for a moment, saluted to Rohan and said, "We humans are naturally willing to lend a helping hand to friendly races. Your ships can be moored outside the harbor, and you can trade freely in this city. Thank you for your help, human. The elves will repay your kindness." After the red and white faces finished singing, Rohan slowly walked down the Black Ark and came to the rock deck surrounded by guards. After looking at the handsome faces and pointed ears of these elves, the diplomats and sailors swallowed their saliva, but did not fail to be rude again. They knew that this meeting would be recorded in the history of the Kingdom of Christ, so they did not dare to be careless. Rohan looked at these humans, took a box from Dario, handed it to the diplomat and said, "As mentioned before, we are explorers from the end of the world, so we hope to buy a piece of land in the suburbs of your city to live in. This is the deposit." Hearing this, the human diplomat curiously opened a crack in the box, then hurriedly closed the box, and said seriously, "Please rest assured, if it is just a piece of land, then I can make the decision and sell all the idle land in the suburbs of Salamport to you. Thank you." Looking at this human who thought he had made a profit, and was secretly proud, Rohan almost couldn't help laughing. Look, it only takes 500 ordinary elven gold coins to get a large piece of land from these mortals. In his early years, Rohan had already read various books and methods about the elves' establishment of colonies during the Endless Glory era. However, because Tarachi prefers plundering rather than management, all these books were piled in the corner of the Nagaran library waiting to mold. Fortunately, these books were finally found by Rohan. It can be said that, except for the Lord Witch King, no other Tarachi knows how to develop colonies better than Rohan. Even without the help of the system, Rohan is confident that he can secretly control this mortal country within a few years. Looking at the human diplomat in front of him who was excitedly holding the box, Rohan said gently, "Then, please let your ship lead the way, and take us to see what the land you gave to the elves is like." "Oh, don't worry, honorable elf, you will be satisfied. Port Serenade the port. Thousands of human soldiers have climbed up the city wall and aimed their weapons at the black ark on the sea in the distance. Beads of sweat slid down their faces, and they rubbed their weapons anxiously. Although they were terrified because they didn't know what they were facing, they still stood faithfully at their posts. As time passed, the sun gradually fell towards the sea, and the orange-red sunset brought a sense of oppression to the huge black ark. The scout on the guard tower held a monocular telescope made of glass in his hand, constantly observing the black ark that was slowly approaching the port. Looking at the well-equipped soldiers and the huge reaper crossbow on the black ark, the observer couldn't help but sigh. "Oh my god, it's hard to imagine, if we really fight, can we beat this big guy?" Suddenly, he saw a human-like boat through the telescope, so he shouted, "Look! Sir Ham's ship is back. They are still safe. Attention. The big ship is releasing small boats. Their small boats are almost as big as our warships. P.S. Do you think the update is too little? Then the original 3,000 words per chapter will be changed to 2 chapters of 4,000 words. It feels like changing one thing at a time. Haha. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.